Good evening. Tonight is June 10th, 2015. This is a meeting of the Revere City Council's Subcommittee on Ways and Means. On the agenda today, we have one item. It is the fiscal year 2016 budget, and we'll be hearing from several department heads. We do have in attendance today Council President Powers, committee members, Councilor Guanasso, Councilor Haas, Councilor Morabito, and also City Councilors McKenna and Councilor Patch. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Members of the Council, thank you for being here tonight. I want to make sure this is working okay. I am pleased tonight to submit you our proposed FY 2016 operating budget for the City of Revere in the amount of $168,473,027. This is a 4.3% increase from FY'15. However, it should be noted that if water sewer figures are backed out of the municipal government totals, that new figure becomes an increase of just 2.4% over the FY'15 budget. The usual budget busters, as has been the case for many years, is our retirement and health insurance costs. They continue to rise annually. The City of Revere's allotment towards pensions and retirements has gone up $463,286 from FY'15 to 16. Retirement and pension payments are mandated by PERAC, the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, and they increase at a rate of about 5% annually. The allotment towards health insurance has gone up about $500,000, $498,808 from FY'15 to FY'16. So those two alone represent a total increase of $962,094, close to $1 million just for those two items alone. I think it bears noting that this budget is presented on time, within 170 days after the January 5th, 2015 annual organizational meeting of the City Council, and this is in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 32. We continue to prioritize our core tenets of public education, public safety, economic development, and the rebuilding of our aging infrastructure. Before I get a little further into the numbers, I want to let the City Council know, I think you know about a couple of awards that the City has won. I think it bodes well, not only for our administration, not only for City Council, but it bodes well for the City as a whole. This year, we were awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its FY'15 budget. There were only 20 communities across the Commonwealth that received this award, and this is the first time in the city's history that we have earned this prestigious designation. We also, for the second time, have received the CAFR Award, which is the Comprehensive Analytical Financial Reporting Award, on the way that we report. And again, if you look at the two awards that the City has received from the Government Finance Officers Association, we're even in a more elite group in terms of budgeting with respect to these two awards. Our bond rating, again, was upgraded this past April to AA-. I think I've talked about it before. In prior years, when we go out to bond, we'd have maybe 2 bidders. Now we're getting like 7, some international. So we're doing very, very well, and that's where your bond rating matters. When you go out to borrow money, you know, the confidence that the City of Revere has earned has really meant a difference to the taxpayers. In fact, we just recently refunded our long-term debt, saving a one-time $250,000, thereabouts, a little shy of that, but $250,000 to the taxpayers. So again, that's where good budget management matters. I can't say enough about the long hours, time, and effort that was put forth by our entire finance team. That includes our Director of Finance, George Anzoni, our Auditor, Laurie Giardella, and our Board of Assessors, led by Chairman Andy Iavana and John Varengia and Dana Brangiforti. I'm also very grateful to Sarah Concannon from the Edward J. Collins Center for Public Management at UMass for her support and assistance. She is an invaluable tool to the City of Revere. The Collins Center has also been pivotal, in helping the city implement our RevStat program, which is our performance-based management program that we implemented back a couple years ago. I'd also like to thank all of our department heads for the time and effort that they've put in. This award that was presented to the City of Revere and presented to to myself as mayor and the finance team was not earned alone. Our department heads all participated in this because without their support and their extra work and buying into the program of transparency and full disclosure, this award would have not been possible. So it is really a feather in the cap of all of our department heads that participated in this process. Now I'd like to go in a little bit to the numbers, and before I do get started, I just want to say this. You see a lot of department heads that are sitting here behind me that are scheduled for tonight. They're all going to have something to say, obviously, about their budgets, and I'm here to talk about my own personal budget as well as the overall budget. But I do need to be in Boston by 7:30. I have a meeting in town, so I will stay here as long as I can to answer specific questions. But in the event that it's going after I have to leave, I have my Director of Finance here, who's more than capable to answer questions. We worked hand in hand on this budget together. And again, I have members of my finance team here, including our Auditor and our Board of Assessors. So they are here to answer questions. So I'll try to get through it as quickly as I can, but to be as informative as I can about the overall budget. So we used, as we typically do when we present the budget, figures based on the House and what they have decided in their budget with respect to local aid. As you all know, the budget is still in conference committee. It could be passed by July 1st. If it's not passed by July 1st, it might be July 2nd, it might be July 3rd. But I have every reason to believe that the budget will be passed at the state level in the not-too-distant future. Just yesterday, there was a Supreme Court decision that came down where the Senate and House had differed with respect to a specific issue that had to do with earned income tax credits. That has been resolved, and so now that that has been resolved, I think they're going to be able to move forward in conference committee in a much more deliberate manner. So the figures that we're going to use for local aid starts with Chapter 70. Chapter 70 is at $54,197,128. And as far as unrestricted general government aid, $9.482 million, $9,482,988. In FY'16, Chapter 70 was at $50,950,075, and unrestricted general government aid was at $9.153 million. So these estimates that we're using, which we have every reason to believe, by the way, will hold, represents a 6.4% increase in Chapter 70, which is our school spending, and a 3.6 increase in general local aid for the city side. The total proposed spending for education is at $74,386,225. Clearly, the money spent on education here in the city of Revere is clearly paying dividends. I think all of you may remember back in October when Governor Patrick was out here and visited the high school to celebrate with the Secretary of Education and Speaker DeLeo and the rest of our state delegation, Senator Petroselli and Representative Vincent, of Revere being the only district in the urban school district with all level 1 and 2 schools. And that, if you take education and you take investment in infrastructure, it bodes extremely well for economic development, which I know our Economic Development Director, John Festa, will talk about when it's his turn. But, you know, those two things, I think, are most critical to economic development opportunities. When people are talking good about your school system, and when people know that you can get a good education, you know those are dollars that are well spent. Our salutatorian this year and our valedictorian, both going to Princeton University. So I think people in Revere, with the over 7,000 kids now in our school system, families here in the city of Revere can certainly know that their children can get a first-class education here in the city of Revere. And I have to credit the City Council, particularly the City Council that going back, God, now about 15 years ago, that had the vision and the courage to appropriate, which is now over $100 million in a 5-school building program. Those dollars, you can see, have clearly paid dividends, and we're reaping those rewards now by the successes that the kids in our school system are now celebrating. So it's a credit to the kids, it's a credit to the administrators, and it's certainly a credit to the teachers that have taken such an active interest, and that is where this money is being spent. So I think we can all be very proud of those numbers. The Chapter 70 that we received this year is close to $3.25 million increase in FY'16. And again, so that totals at $4.225902 from FY'15 with the city's share. We believe that these investments in education in this proposed budget will enable us to move forward with important goals such as advancing high-quality instructional practices, furthering expanded learning time opportunities, and to maintain the existing culture of high expectations for both teachers and students. I think all of you are aware of the fact that Dr. Paul Dakin is retiring at the end of this year. He certainly was the right leader at the right time. He has done incredible things with the Revere school system, and you may all know that you know, he's done such good things that back in 2013, he was Superintendent of the Year in Massachusetts, and we just recently last year received a $3 million Nellie Mae grant that's going to provide even further opportunities for professional development, and so we can continue to be a model for other schools, not only here in Massachusetts, but across the country. Nellie Mae was a very, very competitive grant, a New England-based grant that the City of Revere earned. And it is a real feather in the cap of not only Superintendent Dakin, but every member of the school department that helped make that a reality. I'm very proud and pleased to say that Dr. Diane Kelly, as you all, I'm sure, know, will be assuming the role of superintendent. And I have no reason to believe that we'll miss one beat under her direction and her leadership. She has worked hand in hand with Dr. Dakin for a long time now, and I think that's one of the reasons why she was a unanimous choice of the school committee when it came to selecting our next superintendent, because we want to be sure that our school system stays on the right track and on the right course so that we can continue to see the results that we've seen over these last several years. With respect to public safety, I don't think it's any secret when I campaigned for mayor 4 years ago, I've always said that I feel as though, while there's a number of responsibilities, including making sure that our school system performs at a high level, I think it's all for naught if we don't have a strong public safety infrastructure. And we had seen our police department depleted down to a dangerously low level of officers. I think, in fact, when I took over, there were 84 uniformed police officers. A city our size should have about 135. So I would call that a dangerously low level. And we've been trying to dig ourselves out and build our department back up, not only to reach that number of where we should be. That's just a number. But I've always said I want people to certainly be safe, and I want people to feel safe. And the way they're going to feel safe is to see more uniformed police officers in their neighborhoods and out on the street. So, again, I've always viewed this as my top priority, the safety and security of our residents. The total proposed spending for public safety, that includes fire, inspectional services, and the police in FY'16 is $21,138,748. This is an increase of $163,614 over last year. Some things to note: in the police department, one of the 4 police captains is retiring or has retired this year, and we will not be filling that position with another captain, as the ordinance doesn't call for that. Instead, we're budgeting for 2 additional patrolmen, people out on the street. Proposed funding will bring the complement of our police department to 97 officers. That is up from 84 when I took over. That's 13 additional police officers on the street serving our residents here in the city of Revere. And that commitment is going to continue. Now, this is still a far cry from back in the late 90s, and I know former Mayor Haas can appreciate when he had, I believe, 117 uniformed police officers back then. So, and even at that, when you think about it, although maybe back at that time, depending upon the population, he might have been right at the number that he needed. But, in today's world, we'd still be shy, even at 117. We're just building up now to 97. So, but again, with your support over the last few years, with respect to the budget that I've submitted to you, you have supported that increase in officers. And again, I've always viewed budgeting here in the city, and certainly with respect to public safety, without question, is a partnership that we have to have. I think we all need to show, and we have shown, our commitment to public safety, and again, the preservation of the safety and security of all of our residents. We have begun to put more police officers who are currently doing administrative functions back on the street, which is where uniformed police officers ought to be, which is why you'll notice a line item in the police budget of $75,000 for a budget director. I think this is a best practice that hundreds of cities and towns across the country have implemented. And, it's recommended by the UMass Collins Center in terms of trying to replace uniformed police officers from doing administrative work and putting them on the street. I think we get more bang for our buck by putting a uniformed police officer on the street, particularly some of the high-paid ones, back on the street, where they can make a difference with respect to keeping the public safe than performing simple administrative functions that a civilian could do. And so you will notice that in the budget. The fire department, under the direction of Chief Gene Doherty, continues to focus on training and increased response times. They continue to lead not only the state but the nation with respect to innovation. I'm not sure if you are all aware of a new program that the fire department is implementing, but they are implementing a program where now, unfortunately, the city of Revere, no different than any other city or town across Massachusetts or across the country, is battling this terrible opioid crisis. Sadly, the city of Revere has already experienced 15 fatalities thus far through this calendar year. Last year, all year, we only had 13, which is 13 too many. But this year, we're up to 15. Narcan use is up. It's a major, major problem, and that's why I think you've seen the Baker-Polito administration, along with Attorney General Healy and others, taking this problem on head-on and taking it extremely seriously and focusing a lot of time and energy to see how can we fix this devastating problem. Well, the fire department now has taken it, in addition to being first in using Narcan across the nation, in the entire country, now they've taken it to the next step where after they help somebody that's been revived through Narcan, they're actually going out and visiting with the family and offering support and giving them options on where they can go for treatment. And so they continue to do all they can, like we are, to try to deal with this very, very sad and devastating problem. I think it's important to note that when I assumed office, the fire department was 2 years out of contract. And while we negotiated and negotiated and negotiated, very amicably, I might add, we could not come to any type of resolution. So it was decided that the only way this could be decided was through arbitration. So we went to the Joint Labor Management Council, and as a result, the funding salaries that you'll see are consistent with the new collective bargaining agreement that was reached during arbitration at that time. So clearly, we had to go along with the arbitrated decision, and also, like with other contracts that were assumed, had to deal with retro payments as well for past years that were out of contract, completely out of control of my administration, but yet something we had to deal with. This year's complement of firefighters will total 98, and I think it's important to note that of these 98 firefighters, 10 that were historically funded through a federal SAFER grant. First year after I took office, that SAFER grant went away. And as an administration, we made a decision to keep these 10 firefighters and not put our residents at risk. That was a huge financial commitment. And again, with the help of the City Council and the approval of the City Council, we were able to keep those 10 firefighters on. It is my goal to continue to increase the ranks in both the police and fire department based on city finances. There was a lot of things, as you know, that we dealt with over the last few years that could have, may have come to fruition, but unfortunately, some of them didn't go our way. We had to deal last July 28th with a tornado that devastated our central business district. That set us back in a lot of different ways. We continue to look for funding. In fact, I want to thank our state delegation for including $700,000 in to help us rebound from some of the costs that won't be covered by any federal or state assistance with respect to public damage that was received during that tornado. Again, that is in conference committee right now, and I'll know more and have more to report to you all once the state budget is passed as to what our opportunities and options are for receiving any of that funding. We continue our efforts that was handed off to me from the prior administration with the Regional 911, a Regional Emergency Communications Center. We're certainly very far down the road on that. It took me, I have to say, some time to get up to speed as to where we are with that program. We've had so many twists and turns with that Regional 911 Center that it's hard to even recreate, and it's too long to go through. But nonetheless, we're still dealing with it, and you will see a separate budget item for the Regional Emergency Communications Center. With respect to code enforcement, we have very high hopes for our new 40U program that we implemented back in April of 2015. As you know, we began the implementation of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40U which is part of a larger citywide strategy on how we approach problem properties. One of the biggest complaints that we get, and I would probably surmise that one of the biggest problems that you all get, are problems with properties that are blighted, that are not being taken care of, that are overcrowded, that are just being a detriment to various neighborhoods. And sometimes it's that one house out of 20 that can cause people to put those for sale signs on their front lawns. And it's not our intention to sit back idly and watch this happen, and we haven't. We implemented back several years ago, I think when I first took over, our safe housing program that has yielded dividends beyond what we could have hoped for. And this 40U is just another tool now that we're able to use to combat this problem with problem properties across our city. In order to support this program, we've increased, we've had a modest increase at inspectional services that you'll find in the budget. But that, again, is to accommodate the 40U program. Over the past year, the city, through our city solicitor, has collected over $160,000 in court-ordered judgments relating to property owners' failure to abide by our city ordinances. This is a significant increase from last year, but we are being more aggressive. I think it's important to note the city does not like to go out and fine people. If I had my way, we would not fine one property, but we fine people because they need to abide by our health and building code ordinances. That's what maintains order in the city. And as much as I empathize with people who may get a ticket from time to time for not staying in compliance, that is why we have health and building code ordinances. I'm not excluded from it, you're not excluded from it, and neither is any resident that lives in the city of Revere. We've taken those health and building code ordinances very, very seriously. We meet regularly on it, and I think I can honestly say, I mean, it's a big problem, but we are making a lot of headway. We believe that this 40U will certainly, over time, be more than a cost-justified program, and the byproduct of that, beyond the cost, is how we resolve these quality of life issues that are plaguing our neighborhoods. Economic development, obviously, we base our budget on some new growth estimates, and economic development is strong here in the city. You see a lot of construction going on, and that is going to continue. I think outside confidence in the city of Revere has grown exponentially just over the last few years. I know because I've been asked to speak to various economic development groups, groups of developers, groups of investors. There is a newfound confidence in the city of Revere, and we're going to continue to see that confidence, which I think is just great news for all of us. You know, there's been many times that, you feel like you're turning the corner and then a recession hits or something happens, and we wind up sliding back down to the bottom of the pile. But we've been fortunate now, and there's a renewed enthusiasm in the development world for lots of good things to happen here in the city of Revere. I am thrilled that former city manager Jay Ash is now leading the efforts under the governor as Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. Jay is a friend to the city of Revere. He's familiar with the city of Revere, and he has expressed his full confidence and support in our leadership and in our desire to grow the city of Revere in a smart and meaningful way. We had a groundbreaking at 660 Ocean Avenue, which is going to be 230 luxury apartments. I think a lot of people get nervous about kids. They get nervous about, how much affordable housing can we maintain. I think it bears noting these are not affordable housing units. In fact, there is no proposed affordable housing units being proposed in the city at this time. And the reason is because of the desirability of the city of Revere. In fact, the Vanguard at Waterfront Square had projections that they wanted to use for market rate rents when they broke ground over a year and a half ago. They have exceeded their projections. Number one, average income to even get into that building is $80,000, average family income. Rents are up to $2,300, $2,400 a month for a two-bedroom, I think around $2,000 for a one-bedroom. Very, very pricey, but at the same time, it's what this TOD project and any future TOD project is there to do. It's there to provide people that convenience of living at public transportation. And you see that happening everywhere that's fortunate enough to have public transportation. The city of Revere is starting to capitalize on that with our 3 stops on the Blue Line. So really, really good news. These first and second phases down at Wonderland represents a total investment of about $85 million. Moving down here to Broadway, I'm sure everybody has noticed the revitalization of Broadway. Back when I first campaigned for mayor, we talked about how we felt that our central business district had deteriorated over time, how no investment was really made in our central business district. And as far as I'm concerned, I want to be proud of the city I live in. I think all of you want to be proud of the city you live in. When somebody comes here to visit you, you want them to drive through a city that looks like it's a first-class city, and that's my intention, to make this a first-class city, one that we can all be proud of, one that residents can be proud of. And I think if you drive down Broadway now, you'll see already, and this was in spite of being set back, again, by that tornado last July, you'll see a lot of progress. We have about $14 million right now in public and private monies that are being spent. Neighborhood developers have begun construction at the 39-unit senior housing facility at the old Reardon's restaurant site. For Kids Only and Motorcycles of Manchester have also begun construction on their new facilities. And the city is partnering with a local business owner to revitalize 10 storefronts on the west side of Broadway from Park Ave up to the Revere House of Pizza. So there'll be 10 storefronts there. And already, according to the owner of the property, there's some significant interest in real good businesses looking to invest there. So we're very, very excited about that. And that has always been our goal, that if we invest public money, which is all grant money, by the way. It's not, I mean, it's tax dollars. At the end of the day, we all paid for it. But this is state grant money that's up for grabs through Mass Works. And the city of Revere has got more than its share. Well, I don't want to say more than its share. But we have done very well with respect to Mass Works, and we're putting that money to good use. That public investment, similar to what you saw down at Wonderland, there was $80 or $90 million that was secured in public funding, but that's now paving the way for this private development that we're all so hopeful for. And this is the same theory that we're using here on Broadway. So, again, that is going very, very well. We're also excited. We've kicked off, under the direction of our Economic Development Director, John Festa, our Plan Revere public visioning process. We are working hand in hand with MAPC, who has lots of technical experience in dealing with plans like this. In fact, I just talked with their executive director yesterday, Mark Drazen, who was excited about the prospects here in the city of Revere, looking forward to working with the city of Revere, and has the same level of confidence in this planning process to be a success as I know we all do. So we're very excited about that. With respect to our infrastructure and investments being made in our infrastructure, clearly keeping pace with our aging infrastructure is no doubt a challenge, but it's a necessity. My administration inherited a water sewer consent decree that the city had entered prior to us coming into office with the Department of Justice and the Environmental Protection Agency, along with the Department of Environmental Protection. that forced us to update our aging water and sewer infrastructure. This was unfortunate that we got into a consent decree to start with because we were already under an administrative order. And, had we complied with that, it might not have got to the point where, according to our legal counsel that I've brought in, Michael Leon from Nutter and McClellan, one of the more draconian consent decrees that has been bestowed on any city and town that he's ever seen. And he's been dealing with these environmental issues for a long, long time. This is something that we have all had to deal with and have to continue to deal with. Now, you all know, I've been up here several times to talk about our efforts to spread that 10 years out into 20 or 30 years. You can't fix 100 years' worth of problems in 10 years. It's financially unsustainable, not feasible. The ratepayers simply can't afford it, and we have been battling weekly through our legal counsel, through our engineers, both Brown and Caldwell and CDM Smith, to work with EPA and the DOJ to spread these terms out. And we have had some very, very productive discussions. Unfortunately, it doesn't go quickly. As much as I wish I could come here and say to you, you know what, now we have 20, 25, 30 years to fix these problems, and we have more time to get our heads around what we're actually dealing with instead of running in and relining every pipe in the city. It goes slow. It's not on our end. We would go as quickly as we possibly can, but we have to follow a process, and that's what we're doing. I am very happy to report that our water rates, although I wish I could say in spite of these millions and millions of dollars that we've had to spend to keep in compliance with this consent decree, I wish I could say our water rates are going down. That's just not a reality. But I'm very encouraged by our water rates going up only less than 2% next year, 1.98%. Our commercial water rates are going to increase at about 3.38%. So while I wish it wasn't going up at all, I think all things considered, 1.98% is, I think, not a bad report to have to make to the taxpayers, the ratepayers, and the City Council. Total spending in the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund in FY'16 is $24,064,398, which is an increase of a little over $1 million from FY'15. For the purposes of this budget, rate assessments by the MWRA are $15,380,076, which is an increase of about $702,000 from FY'15, or a 4.8% increase. In order to meet the demands of the consent decree, and this is important, in order to meet the demands of the consent decree, we had to add staffing in our water department. And again, this is not only to keep in compliance with our consent decree, but it's to further show the commitment that the city has to the EPA that we are serious about fixing our problems, but we are serious about really extending the terms of this consent decree. So we added 3 positions in the water sewer department that will help specifically maintaining the system. Because what happened with our water system over the last 100 years, and the reason we're in this situation to begin with, is because our water, sewer, drainage infrastructure is all in the ground. Nobody seemed to want to pay attention to it, at least not to the extent that we needed to. So we find ourselves in this situation because of the lack of maintenance that, probably should have been done. But again, Revere's not alone. I mean, every other city in town, has had to, in their own way, deal with problems with respect to water sewer infrastructure. Maybe not to the extent that the city of Revere is, but they've had to. While the CMON program and these 3 positions in the Water Sewer Department are there specifically to maintain the system. It's going to do us no good. We could dig up and replace every pipe in the city, and if we don't maintain it, we're throwing money out the window, because this, maybe not your city council, maybe not the one after you, but some city council down the road is going to be back in the same position that we are right now if we don't have a serious maintenance program, and that is what we're doing with these 3 positions. They've actually asked us to put more positions into the Water Sewer Department, but again, to keep the increase at a level that we think is fair and will be able to be absorbed by our ratepayers, we've added 3 positions. So, other factors that impact our FY'16 budget. As you all know, the Commonwealth's Minimum Fair Wage Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 151, is making minimum wage for city employees $10 an hour, effective January 1st, 2016. And then again, minimum wage under Chapter 151 will rise to $11, effective January 1st, 2017. This wage increase is going to impact youth summer jobs, which we have over 300 kids participating in, senior maintenance programs, and our City Hall call takers downstairs, or our receptionists. As I talked about before when I took office, and again, when you add these numbers, those of you that have been involved in collective bargaining will, can understand the exponential effect that 2% and 3% raises can have over time. When I took office back in 2012, all city union contracts had been expired. And again, as I mentioned, the fire department was 2 years out. I had to settle on a 5-year agreement with them as a result of the JLMC decision. This has no doubt put a strain on city finances, but in spite of that and all the work that we've been able to do it all within the confines of Proposition 2.5. My major concern clearly going forward as I start entering renegotiations with all unions that are now up again is the affordability to our taxpayers. Clearly, I think every union in the city knows that I want to be fair. These union members work hard for the city. I say it to them all the time when I have my department heads meeting or meetings we've implemented, as you may know, Employee of the Quarter. Whenever I'm talking to them, I tell them that we have a very dedicated municipal workforce, and I'm very proud of the work they do. So certainly I want to be fair and equitable when it comes to negotiating with them. But again, it has to be fair and equitable to the taxpayers as well. So I think we all have to be mindful of that. So with that, I know there's probably some questions, and I'd be happy to start to either answer some of those questions, but if I could, I'd like to ask for some deference here from the chairman and members of the committee, where I do have to be in Boston by 7:30. If it's okay with you, if I could segue right into the mayor's budget and go over it's very minor. And so if I could go into my budget, and then basically we can go back and can ask whatever question.
That's no problem, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's really, I don't have, with respect to my budget, not much has changed. In fact, my budget is actually reduced by $40,000 from last year. So the only thing really of note here is that the C-Click Fix program that has been a big hit here in the city. It allows people to report public works and other concerns to the city through their cell phone direct to city government. We had on a grant for the first 3 years, but that grant has expired. Normally, the program normally costs $10,000 a year. We were able to negotiate it down to $5,000. Just to talk about how many complaints or how many reports come through. Over the past 3 years, we've received over 1,100 requests through this system, so I think it is a good service. I mean, you think about $5,000 a year for that type of service. I think it's money well spent. And again, my overall budget is actually down $40,000 from last year. So I guess just to summarize, and again, I'll answer specific questions about my own budget if there's any questions on my budget. But, you know, this budget process is not an easy task. As I said in the beginning, I appreciate everybody's hard work. We have, it is our plan to use some free cash to balance this budget. I know Chelsea this year is using, I think they're using $1.7 million to balance theirs. State is going to be using some of theirs. They're backing out some stabilization. It's just the reality of money tightening up. And, you know, I know that I'm certainly not in favor of layoffs. I don't think, you know, we talked about, I mean, just take the 10 firefighters and the 13 police officers. That's 23 public safety officials that I have had to fund, or we've made a conscious decision to fund since taking office. I don't think anybody here, at least I don't believe anybody here, has an appetite to start backing off on our commitment to public safety. You know, but that, if you add up, you know, it's about $80,000 per position. You know, it's pretty simple math. It's close to $2 million that we've absorbed in adding these public safety officials. But you know, in my mind, it is completely money well spent. If you're looking at a $160 million budget, you know, I think $2 million on those additional 23 personnel is definitely money well spent. So I'm looking forward to working with you over the coming weeks to enact this FY'16 budget for our municipal and school operations. And I appreciate and look forward to any questions that you may have pertaining to it. There are, as I say, several people here that can address some of the specific questions that you may have above and beyond what I may be able to address. So I look forward to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to just recognize two councilors who have joined us, Councilor Reardon and Councilor Janino. And I will open it up to committee members first if they have any questions. And I think what we ought to do is have a round of questions about the budget as a whole. If anyone has big picture questions or questions specific to the mayor's budget, we keep it to that, and then we can move on to different departments as we go. But if we could keep the first round to kind of the high level, big picture questions. But Councilor Hatz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, as far as looking at this $169 million budget, when I left office, we had a budget of $69 million. It's grown tremendously over the past 25 years. I'd like to also ask, how many new employees do we have in this budget? You mentioned 3 for the water and sewer. Do we have any others?
Councilor Hatz, just
okay, no.
for information purposes, there is a schedule that I believe was handed out after we received the budget. It does show new FTEs. I think there are 55 new employees total, and that includes the school department, right? It's 17 citywide.
Okay. And the other thing, Mr. Mayor, I noticed that in this budget, it may be comprehensive and all, but we left out the page numbers to make it very cumbersome to negotiate through the budget.
Yeah, I mean, clearly you were mayor, right? So you know that I don't put the page numbers on.
Right.
I had noticed that myself. There's a new format that you have here. I think that the finance team thought it would be, the three-ring binder as opposed to the multiple
Right.
so that you could pull out
Insert.
various sections and make it a little easier. They inadvertently, in their desire to get the budget up to you as quickly as they could, forgot to put the page numbers on. So I believe that, Mr. Chairman, I think has already been acknowledged to you by the auditor, I'm pretty sure.
It was not brought to my attention that when I called the city clerk, she indicated that she called up, I guess, Laurie to find out why there were no page numbers on each page. Okay, but seeing, that's past tense. Makes it difficult for us this evening to negotiate through the budget. One item, yeah, Laurie, you like this?
Say that tomorrow we'll have posted on the website a version with the page numbers, so you'll be able to find that quicker. The printer had a problem with it, so.
Okay, okay. And then one last thing, Mr. Mayor, I know you're short in time. Supposedly we were building up the city, beautification, et cetera. People in Revere are moving out, it seems like in droves. Every neighborhood I go through, taxes. Taxes have to be controlled in some manner. Just last year, my own taxes went up $500. And, it's getting quite expensive to live in our community when you don't have all the services that we have had.
I think you'd have to, you don't have to look very far to see public investment that we're reinvesting back into the community.
Right, but we have to save some of the money we're spending
well,
on the other side.
So we're in the confines of Prop 2.5. I think every city in town, I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe some of the more less urban cities and towns are leaving money on the table with respect to Proposition 2.5. I don't know of any of our neighbors that are doing that. I haven't talked to any of my colleagues in surrounding cities and towns that have been able to lower taxes lately. It's the reality. I just spent almost an hour on the budget talking about the increases that we've had to absorb. If you have, certainly you have ideas on how we're going to save taxes and, my goal has been to provide beautification and provide amenities. I don't think you need to look very far to see that. We've got a beautiful stadium that I was able to, welcome people into for the first time at graduation. People were elated.
Oh, yeah, I'm not questioning that.
yeah.
I'm questioning the fact that people in Revere, it's an older community, they're moving out, left and right.
Well, one of the reasons
And
that
they're
they may be
being
moving out is
replaced.
because the property values, we were the 5th, I think, in the state of Massachusetts in terms of increase in property values. Revere has become a very desirable place to live. So, there may be people that are cashing in. Right now, it's hard. Inventory, I talk to realtors all the time. You can't find inventory.
Right.
People, as soon as they put their house on the market, it's selling.
Yeah. And I guess my whole main thing is we have to control somewhat the taxes. We have to, put a limit on them to keep the people that we want in Revere, not the people coming in with the translation of people coming in.
Well, I see, well, so that's up, listen, if your point is that we should lower taxes or whatever, well, we'll work on that. Again, we work very hard with respect to finances. That's why we've certified more free cash in the city's history over the last 3 years than ever before. Our stabilization, even after we use free cash to balance this budget, is going to be at its highest level than ever before. That's why our bond rating is up at its highest level than ever before. So we're
People
doing
don't
all
live in
we
that.
can.
People don't live in that. They paid taxes.
Yeah,
I
no.
understand what
Yeah.
you're driving at.
Yeah,
There's
we're-
no question about that.
we're a
But
tr-
there comes a point in time when people cannot afford. Okay, I've taken up enough of your time,
Yeah.
because I know you're in a hurry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Has. Council President Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor, I'll be as brief as possible. I constantly hear about all of the free cash we have. Now, my understanding, free cash according to good municipal practices, to be used for one-time expenditures. I submitted to your office, I believe, back in April, some things that had to be done down in the Mills Avenue, the guardrails down there. I'll admit they did do some on Rice Avenue and then for some reason stopped. The ward I represent has so many potholes in it, okay? And I believe that this past weekend, you had a chance to observe that down in the Oak Island section. I can't understand for the life of me, and I know that I feel confident that this council would have gone along with it if DPW, yourself, had come up here back in April and said, look, we've got a problem with potholes, we've got a problem with trenches, I've got a sunken catch basin, a sunken sewer down on Dunn Road that's been there for 5 months with a barrel in it. And I'm sure if you would come up here to the city council with the DPW and said, look, I need $200,000, I can take it out of free cash, I need it to make some of these repairs in the neighborhoods. Because to me, the neighborhoods are everything. The neighborhoods represent this city itself, what makes up this city. And I can't understand why we can't do that. Can you give me an idea? Or?
Well, Counselor, it's kind of an open-ended question. If you're saying that we should have every pothole filled in the city, you don't need to drive very far. I talked to mayors in other cities and towns that are battling the
Mr.
same
Mayor,
thing we are.
I'm talking about Revere, not other cities and towns.
Well, I don't, Counselor, if you want to get argumentative about it.
I don't want to get argumentative,
So I'm trying to tell you a reality
Okay.
of what's going on across the state. That's the reason the governor released $100 million of Chapter 90 money. That's the reason another $117,000 was released by the administration to help us with potholes. We are filling potholes. We had a private contractor out filling potholes, hundreds of tons. But the magnitude of the problem, we just came through the worst winter in recorded history.
I understand.
And you know what? You can't set unrealistic expectations. Of course we want to fill potholes. That's the look, I'm out in the neighborhoods as much as you are, contrary to maybe what you might think. I am out in the neighborhoods all the time. And we fill an awful lot of potholes. If my superintendent isn't here, he'll tell you. I'm on the phone with him constantly. Go fill this pothole. Go fill that pothole. We can't fill. I know that you have specific potholes that you want filled. We try to fill as many as we can. You got to get credit for some you do. You can't always be, you didn't do this one, you didn't do that one, but you did these 5. I find it hard to believe that we're neglecting whole wards of potholes.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the one you saw down on Oak Island Street the other day that you were told was Oak Island, it was owned by the MDC. It actually is owned by the city of Revere. That particular pothole was there for 3 months.
I don't know what you're talking about, the MDC, but as far as that pothole on Oak Island Street, that's probably filled now. But if that,
It was there for 3 months before it got filled, and you had to take it out and see it yourself to get it filled.
Well,
And I
again,
compliment you for that.
So, yeah, well, thank you, Counselor. And, in all honesty, I don't have it registered up in my head, every pothole in the city that's out there. I rely on Public Works. I rely on our counselors to report them. I rely on See-Click Fix. And I rely on residents. I tell residents all the time. I spoke to a bunch of residents down there who were thrilled that we were down there addressing it. But I said, listen, if you, we need to know about this. Now, if this has been reported and it's not filled in a timely manner, of course we act on it. My Chief of Staff, Miles Lane Kennedy, is on the phone constantly with Public Works.
I know he is, and with all due respect to Miles, I gave him a list a couple of times.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, and
So
we
I am
respond.
out there
We
looking.
respond,
That's my job.
So if I get a list from you, I can't, we don't have the money or the manpower to fix every single thing that every single council asks for in a week or a month, or sometimes even in a year. There's only so much money to go around. It's a big city, over 150, whatever it is, 150 miles of road. In the meantime, we've had water breaks because of this bad winter that has taxed our Public Works Department incredibly. You know, they just came, you got to remember, last July, they worked around the clock for days after that tornado to try to get the city back to normal. Just as we're getting cleaned up, we get hit with the worst winter in recorded history. I mean, how much can we ask of these people? We can't, you know, I can't. I'm not willing to do it. The council wants to do it, your discretion. I'm not going to beat them over the head every time a pothole isn't fixed when, you know, I mean, you know, that, I mean, if we can get to it, we get to it, and they do. I make sure that they're out there, the highway crew is out there, but again, we don't have the same number of people, and we don't have the same amount of money, you know, as far as percentage-wise, to do the work that we need to. It's just, you know, and again, but again, we're trying as hard as we possibly can to make sure. It's important to me that our roads are good. And, you know, we have a very aggressive construction season this year. You're going to see a lot of roads being done. I think School Street, I don't know, is that your district, Councilor?
Part of it is, yeah.
So I mean, School Street is a disgrace. I drive down School Street all the time. It's deplorable. I drive up Cushman Ave, another street, deplorable. But again, these are going to be done this construction season. It's, you know, and so, you know, we're putting Band-Aids on those streets right now because just to make sure that people aren't, but my father was coming over the Tobin Bridge over the weekend, wound up getting a blowout over in, it was either Chelsea or Charlestown. He had to pull off the road. I mean, you know, my brother was on Montvale Avenue in Woburn. He got a blowout, had to pull over the side of the road. This is just my family. I don't know how many others. But every city in town is dealing with this mess. And I sympathize with you, Council, because I know you're the one that gets the calls. So I know where it's coming from. I know that you're getting the calls, and you want to be able to say, I'm going to get this done the same way I do. I want to get this done right now, right? Because it reflects poorly on you if you don't do it. And I totally understand that.
Maybe not right now, but within a week or two, okay?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that's a reasonable amount of time. And let me make one thing clear, Mr. Mayor. I'm not criticizing the workers down at the DPW. I understand they're overtaxed. That's why I'm suggesting use some money from free cash. Maybe we should have sat down in April and said, look, we've got potholes here and there. I'm coming up to the council, fellas. I need 100,000, I need 150,000 of the free cash. Will you give me that appropriation? And a yes, I think would have been yes, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Councilor Guanasso.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Certainly, potholes is a major issue in Ward 3, and we all know that. And I have been very fortunate that when I receive a call from a constituent, I just level with them and say, you know, we are working on the situation as best we could. Finances is one obstacle, and the other is manpower to perform the duties. But certainly, it is an outcry and one that we have to address. And maybe Councilor Powers comes up with something that could be useful if we're willing collectively as a city council to put up the money, to ask of you to submit money from free cash to perform this obligation that we have to the community. That might answer all questions. And further than that is we should probably outsource it because we'd be taxing and taking away from other responsibilities that the staff at the DPW has to do. So we free up that, come up with a constructive plan to fill as many potholes as possible, as quick as possible. And I think that's what people are looking for. Now, I've had several requests, and I don't know what's going on out there, but there seems to be some sort of outcry. A lot of people want sidewalks done too, and some have some grass in areas that have been there for 40 years. Now they feel that they need it hot top. And I am begging patience of them people because I alluded to the problems that we had 50 hydrants down within our community. We had a disastrous winter. We're working as best we could with the finances and the people power that we have. So, and people have been understanding. So they're giving us a leadway in that particular avenue. But I will say, in defense of all of us, potholes is an outcry. And it's a major. And I did experience coming over the bridge. I hit a boomer, and I thought my car was going to fall apart. That's right on the bridge coming home. So they're all over the place. I went to Malden and Wakefield to perform some service on my automobile, and I had craters going over there. So they're everywhere. But that doesn't appease anybody that's at home watching and saying, I really don't care what happens in Wakefield and Woburn. I don't even care what happens in Revere. And what I'm suggesting is that we get together collectively and attack this problem, because it is really serious. And I know, looking at the capital program, that there are some streets in Ward 3, thankfully, that are going to be repaved. And I informed some of the people of those streets, and they're very pleased to see that coming. So they do have patience when they know there's relief in sight. So all we have to do is give them a little bit of hope and have a little forgiveness and buy some time to get us organized to get this thing done. I think before summer's in, we're going to have all these potholes filled in. And that might not be satisfactory to some, but, you know, we're trying to come up with the money as quick as we can. And whatever source that we need to get it at, let's do it and get it performed.
So, Councilor, and this may address even Councilor Powers' concerns, because is Marie, I think I saw Marie Zalandi. We have been assembling an RFP for potholes with Michael Kessman, haven't we? Right. Okay. So so just so you know, I mean, like, so trust me, I hear it too. I hear about potholes all the time, right? And so we had Michael Kessman up in Community Development help prepare an RFP to put it out to private contractors, because we could spend up to $10,000 without having to go out to bid with a private contractor, which we did. But that's the maximum we could do. Otherwise, we'd have to go out with an RFP. So I had Michael Kessman, in conjunction with Frank Stringy and his team up there in Community Development, put together an RFP to try to get a contractor. This has been going on now for a couple of months. I mean, by the time you put the RFP together, then you put it out to bid. And but
I heard one bid came back, no one bid on it because they couldn't perform the duties for the money we're looking to spend.
Right, right. So it has to be, I mean, we just went through a winter that, you know, I finally had to tell Donnie Goodwin, don't call and ask me if it's okay to spend this money anymore, because I just wanted as much equipment as I could. We had crews down here from Syracuse. We had crews down here from Buffalo. We had crews up here from New Jersey. And, you know, not to say money is no object, but when you're in a crisis situation, similar to the tornado, I didn't stop tree companies and say, how much is it going to cost to pick up the trees? We called them in. And
it's too bad we can't link snow removal with potholes and make them one and the same, and then we can deficit spend and get them all fixed right away. Because they're one and the same. Come snowstorms, you know they're going to be potholes. And it's all part of the same process. So why can't there be some sort of
that sounds like
process?
It would have to be something legislatively. I know
Right.
Chapter 90, you're kind of pigeonholed into what you can spend Chapter 90 funds for. I mean, Frank might be able to elaborate when he comes up to talk about his portion of the budget a little bit more about, but that's, listen, I'd be wide open to that. If I could deficit spend in potholes, I'd have crews out there all day long.
I have to say, not to interrupt you, I have to say, I reviewed the budget, I looked at everything, and I received calls, and 90% of the calls are potholes. So that tells me that no one calls me and said, my taxes are too high. I saw some information that said we're the fourth lowest in a certain area. I mean, because we're not taxing our people at 100% as the legislation promotes us to. So we are benefiting somewhat with the taxes in some ends, but this is the single largest complaint I receive. And so that means that I have to pay attention to it. And so maybe we can sit down and come up with some creative idea, a way to get the funding, because I'm sure every ward council and every councilor at large, for that matter, gets calls on potholes. That's our calls. That's what we get.
Yeah, I totally understand it. And believe me, I'm not tone deaf. It's not as though I don't know that there's potholes out there, or that we have a problem with potholes. I know we do. The one thing I'll say is we're trying, weather permitting and all that other stuff that, that goes with it, manpower. We're trying to get to as many as we can. We're trying to explore options to use private contractors above and beyond what we don't have to go to bid for. That might be a conversation that you can have with Frank when Frank comes up. I think he would be maybe more suited with respect where he deals directly with the Chapter 90 funding that the city gets. He might, maybe there's something, even legislatively, maybe you're onto something. If we can tie potholes to snow removal,
I think it makes sense.
I don't know
one
that
and
we
the
can do a
same.
home rule petition on it, but maybe we could talk to the legislature and
Well-
see, because we aren't the only city that's dealing with it. So
That's
maybe
right.
that's something,
Everybody's in
there's
the
an
same boat.
appetite,
Everybody's dealing
maybe,
with it.
on a state level, so.
Right, right. Well, I looked at the budget and I didn't see anything that stuck out that would be alarming. And I've seen several budgets in the past, and they come in different formats with different wording, but it all comes out to the same, that we have X numbers of dollars that we have to collect to run our city. You didn't exceed Proposition 2.5. We live within the guidelines. There might be a couple of line items that individuals might disagree with. That's part of the process, but
Sure.
as far as I'm concerned, I didn't see anything that sticks out that say, wow, what are we doing here? 2.5 controls all that, and so we live under those guidelines. And again, I've read budgets for a lot of years now, and this is very consistent with the budgets. And actually, there's more verbiage in this than I've ever received in any of the budgets. It is a little difficult to look at it, but then if you put it in common sense-wise, it's alphabetical. So I looked under M, Mayor. I had to go A, B, C, D, but I did find it, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor, thank you. And my apologies to the council. I have to be in Boston at 7:30. It's about 7:15 now. You have a lot of capable people here from our finance team that are willing and able to answer questions. If there's some follow-up that's needed from me, I'm more than happy to respond personally. But I thank you for your questions. I thank you for the forum to present the budget in. And I look forward to passing the budget so we can continue to move on and do good things here in the city for our citizens. So thank you all very much. I'll leave this on for whoever might be answering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that my colleagues have stated basically everything you could about potholes, but let me tell you, if you think it's bad traversing the city on 4 wheels, imagine doing it on 2, because you really take your life into your own hands. So I really hope that we get that fixed, because it's very, very dangerous. In any vehicle in our city right now, there are spots where you find yourself driving practically on the wrong side of the road to avoid potholes, or in some spots it's even down to bricks. It's really bad. But my question is, and I'm sure Mr. Anzoni can answer me because he is our financial guru in the city, one of the biggest calls I get aside from potholes is water and sewer rates. And I know we're really beat over the head with these, and I know a lot of it's out of our control with everything going on with the consent decree and with the MWRA, but do we have anything going on right now to try to keep them lower or to try to stabilize them? Because I feel like that's one thing that, if there's anything that's getting really unaffordable, it's the water rates that we're paying. So I was just curious what's kind of going on in that department, if you had any insight.
Well, yes, I do. As far as the, I'm not used to this mic. I've been told to stand close to it by the city clerk, so I won't look up. But part of the problem is, again, is the consent decree and what we're required to spend under the consent decree. We have bonded over, what, $40 million in the last few years. That's going to grow. We're trying to get that, as the mayor has stated, we're trying to have that consent decree extended to somewhere in the area of hopefully 20, 30 years. And if we do that, the ratepayer won't be as harmed as would be if we stayed under the 10-year. So we're really like in the 7th, 8th year of the 10-year amount. And going to these meetings with the DOJ, Department of Justice, the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, we find that what happens is that, they don't really care about the ratepayers, and I know I'm on TV, but I'll say that straight out, because we talk to them about the ratepayers and what the ratepayers have to come up with. And one of the things we're doing for the consent decree, and we're in the process of doing it right now, is an affordability study. So we are going to use certain equations and formulas to decide what, and put this before the Department of Justice and the EPA, and put before them what can the ratepayers actually can afford. And part of it is per capita income, so we're looking at that. Hopefully, what we'll be doing is presenting to the administrators, which are again, the EPA and the DOJ. I'm missing a third one, but it's slipping my mind. Saying that, we're only going to afford so much. And this year, we're able to absorb a lot in the rate. As the mayor stated, the residential water rate will be going up 1.94%, and the commercial rate will be going up 3.38%. So it's not as hard as a hit as it could have been. But and also in the process of instituting a new water meter reading system. So it's a radio-controlled AMR system, they call it, automatic metering system, meter reading system. So with that, we'll make certain, what that's going to make certain is that everybody pays their fair share. And I think that's one thing people are concerned about, making sure that everybody pays their fair share, and this will. We have the low-read meters that are state-of-the-art coming in. This is going to be a process over 2 years, and I think once this is done, it'd also be helpful to the ratepayers, because sometimes ratepayers come in and they say, I have this very high bill, but, if you look at my other bills, it's not that high. Well, you may have a toilet bowl leaking, or you may have a faucet running, or you may have some reason. But, you only can do so much for them, and when that happens, you have to say, okay, listen, the city of Revere still has to pay for that water. The city of Revere still has to pay for that sewer. So there's not much that you can do for them, but with this new system, it will flash and say, uh-oh, somebody's using too much water. Something will come up, and then that person can be contacted and say, hey, you might need to fix something in your house because you're using too much water more than usual. But again, with the ratepayers, we are trying, the water rate and sewer ratepayers, we're trying as hard as we can to keep the cost down, as usual, but again, implementing the AMR reading system, and we're also fighting the consent decree. So those are the things we're doing in order to make it so that the ratepayers aren't really harmed, so to speak, with high rates of water.
Thank you for
Water,
that.
sewer.
I think that's really helpful, and I think a lot of people were curious about that, and I think that answered a lot of questions. I only had one other question,
Go ahead.
and that's in regards to the work that's been going on in our sewer system with CDM Smith. Do we have a total of how much we've bonded with them this year?
Well, total bonded so far is about $40 million. It's going to be more. I'll tell you it's going to be more, because what happens is the DOJ and the EPA and does anybody here remember, Frank, do you remember those other DOJ, EPA, and who's the third agency? Who's the third agency, Frank? DOJ, EPA, and DEP. Who came up with that one? That's very good. Thank you, Bob. Council, thank you. Whoa, we're dangerous, yeah. DEP. But, in all of them, what's happening is that we probably bonded about $40 million. We've gone to them with what they call a CMOM plan. It's a capital management plan, an operations plan for maintenance. And we've gone to them with that, and that's why you'll see in the budget on there, in the sewer department, I believe we put the new employees, and we only started them about a half a year because we had Brown and Caldwell put forth the CMOM plan, developed the CMOM plan for us. And what it does, in actuality, is it tells us what we need to maintain the system. They gave us a 2-year plan. I've asked for a complete plan to see what type of department we're looking at in order to achieve this goal, and then we can space it when we space it in the various years' budgets in the future, so it doesn't impact the ratepayers all at once. And what will happen is that, as again, you'll see about I believe 5 new employees put in but there's not only 5 new employees, but there's qualifications that they have to have. So we have to advertise according to those qualifications, because we're submitting to the DEP, DOJ, and EPA that whole plan, which includes the qualifications, and we have to stick by that. So whatever we say we're going to do, we have to do according to that plan. So I noticed that in the last month, you had some bonding come up. You have to remember that bonding is for the infrastructure repairs, and that's part of the plan to get it done. But every step of the way, everything they're doing, everything CDM is doing, is being presented to the DOJ, the EPA, and the DEP, and the maintenance of that is also included in the plan from Brown and Caldwell. So that's the way that's all working. I know it's dynamic, and we plan to come up in a couple of months to actually bring up what the status of it is, because we'd like to keep the council informed, and I know you're all curious and you all have great questions, and we're planning to do that within the next couple of months. So-
Awesome. I look forward to hearing that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Genino. Councilor Morbido.
Thank you. My question is on line item SRF bond administration fees. Can you explain,
You know something, I was just going to ask you what page it's on, but you,
there's no page numbers.
but I guess I can't do that. So,
It's actually the first page of the finance department.
okay, excuse me. Okay, SRF bond administration fees, those are the fees that the SRF, oh, excuse me, those are the fees that the SRF actually charge us in order to bond their funds. What they do, the SRF is the State Revolving Fund, here, Ashley, excuse me, thank you, is the State Revolving Fund, and those are the fees that they charge in order for us to bond money from them. They give us low-interest loans, which we're very fortunate to have, 2%. Then there's also, at times, they give us principal forgiveness. So when we get the principal forgiveness, that's even a better situation, financial situation for the city of Revere. But those SRF fees are because of the fact those were the state revolving fund charges us, and it's just passed on to them.
So is there a reason why there was an SRF fees in 2012, 2003, 2013, 2014?
Well, I think in those other years, we were able to absorb them, but now we are putting them in the budget. We absorbed them in different ways, out of fees, out of the, it either came out of the bond and indebtedness or some other account, but what happened is that they've always charged us fees, and the fees were now put into the budget. So now you have a line item for it.
So what was the reason for the 70,000 increase? Were there more bonds?
Well, there are going to be more bonds. That's based on the bonds they plan. That estimate is based on the bonds that they plan to have approved and actually sell. So it's a mixture between the ones that are authorized and actually when they sell the bonds. Because you authorize it doesn't mean the SRF goes and sells them. It just allows the city of Revere to take advantage of that monies. And then the SRF, when they go in and sell them, they pass on those fees to us, to the city of Revere.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Morbido. Any other councilors? No. George, I have a couple of questions. Hopefully they're not too difficult. In terms of the amount of free cash that's going to be used for 16 to fund the 16 budget, what are we looking at? Out of the 6 million, how much is?
6 million we're looking to use 2.5 million, 2.59. So similar to the amount that we had last year.
Right. And then on top of that, there'll be $1 million taken out of stabilization.
No. We intend to use, what we plan to do is, what the plan is that, no, money is going into the stabilization, so that at the end of every year, what we do is, with the budget, first off, the administration requests the use of free cash in order to balance the budget. So that's going to be about 2.591, I think is the figure. The other portion of it, somewhere in the area of $2 million, is going into will be going into the stabilization fund so that we have that money available to the city. We don't lose the use of that money. So that's what we'll be looking for, a transfer.
So out of the 6,
right.
2.5 is going to go for 16.
Right.
2 will go back into stabilization.
That's correct.
And then we put $1 million by city ordinance, 900,000.
We already put that in.
We already put that in,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so the line item on the, again, no page numbers, but
give me the page.
there's the mayor's recommended budget overview detail.
Okay.
And this has revenue broken out.
Right.
And there's a line, TF from stabilization fund in the revenue, other revenue sources for $1,046,973 dollars.
Okay.
Is
the
that-
heading of your budget, the heading of your page? Could you give me the heading and the
Mayor's
page?
recommended budget.
But
overview
overall
detail.
detail, 2016 budget?
Right.
Okay. And the line item you're looking at?
Is so the fourth line down from stabilization fund, and it says for 16, it says 1,046,973. Is that an amount from stabilization that's going to be used as revenue for 16 on top of the 2.5 million?
No, the 2.5 million is all that's going to be used.
Okay, so what is that?
Now, hold on one second.
Do you have the page?
I think this is the page. This page. Okay, did you mark it down?
So the fourth line down, there's
Okay, the fourth line down, I see. You see free cash, page 2, and then you see the 2.532, 2459, 215 budget.
no, in under 16, there's a line item for 1,046,000.
Okay. Transfer from the stabilization fund.
So is that an amount on top of the 2.5 that would be used for the 16 budget?
No, I think that was the amount that was already transferred out of the stabilization fund. From the stabilization fund. No, that was free cash that money came out.
No, we only transferred 900,000 from free cash
Right,
to
free cash, right.
stabilization.
No, that amount is not an amount that's above and beyond the,
But we're booking it as revenue.
we're booking it as revenue. So I would say we could take that out of there, and then, Laurie, let me ask you a question, Laurie. On that figure. Yes, Laurie, 1 second. Could you come 1 second there, please? Okay. Remind me, now on this 1.46973, okay,
Yep.
transfer from the stabilization fund, was there an actual transfer of that money, or we're not expecting a transfer from the stabilization fund?
Brian, if you look at the bottom, the way that this was calculated out was that the top part of it was considered revenue, the bottom part was expenses. This $1 million would be monies that would be used from the stabilization fund, because I thought we were doing that,
Right.
not from the free cash.
Free cash, right, okay.
So that would, plus there was the 745 on the other debt, so.
On the other debt, but that's not
Which
included,
would not-
right.
Because when we did this, we didn't have that information.
Information yet, right.
So,
But that's not included, what
this-
that figure
no,
is.
This isn't including it.
No.
This is what, it would be this number plus the 745. Would be,
Okay, no, here's what happened. We gave you numbers that, let's explain the 745, and then we can get to what the total budget is. What happens is that we have 745, actually 747,000 that has to be put into the, which a letter will be coming up from the mayor, that has to be placed into the bonded debt schedule. It's 747,000. And the part of it, there's an amount for the principal and there's an amount for the interest. So if you include that and you take your total, let me explain how we got to this, to what you're looking for in the answer I'm giving you, why my answer is the way it is. If you take that 747 and add it, 747,000, add it to the 168,473,027, that'll give you the total amount that we need appropriated this year in order for the city to pay its bills. If you take that and you fill out a
Wait,
recap
so
sheet.
that's the amount that we need from stabilization to pay our bills this year?
The 2.591 is the amount. The total amount, no, what we need to pay our bills is a total appropriation of the 168,473 and the 700-odd thousand, because we have bonded debt out there that we need to pay. It was not included in this budget. However, in the estimates for the future years, we did include that amount. We finally got the figure that we needed, and at the time of the budget preparation, it wasn't clear. So what happened is we submitted the budget as it is, and we have to add, and you'll be getting a letter from the mayor to add to the appropriation $740-something thousand, I think it's 47, to that total. So when you do that and you fill out a recap sheet, now you know how your recap sheet is filled out. is that you have, on your fourth page, you have your appropriations, and you have broken out, and then the cost of the water enterprise system. Then you go to your third page, you have your local estimates.
Right.
Okay, and then you go on to your second page, and your second page gives you the total amount that needs to be raised. And that total amount is somewhere in the area of 169 million. I don't have the rest of the figure on the top of my head. But with that, you take off in the next portion, you now, you take off, you add to that amount any deficits or any offsets and so on and so forth. The recap charge sheet, excuse me, the cherry sheet charges, and then when you come to a total, and including on top of that is the overlay. So you still have we still put 800,000 for the overlay. So when you bring that down and you come to a figure of total amount to be, another amount to be raised, you then go further on down the sheet and you start filling out the formula. And when you fill out the formula, there are such things as the amount that's being paid out of the water and sewer. There's going to be just water and sewer enterprise, and that's I believe 24 million. And then whatever else that you have in there, and that brings you down to a bottom line. Now that bottom line gets carried to the first page on the top line, and it's deducted from the total amount of revenues, and that gives you your levy limit, or the amount to be raised. That gives you the levy. That levy limit has to match according to what they call the levy limit sheet, and the levy limit sheet is made up of, the way you figure out your 2.5 levy limit is that you first set your, you have last year's levy, you add 2.5% on top of that, and then on top of that you add on your new growth. And then when you come down to that figure, that's the figure you plug into the bottom line on a pro forma recap sheet to tell you what your levy limit is.
Okay,
So the difference between that bottom line and that third line
Okay.
is the amount of the difference that does not, where the budget does not meet. So that difference, and not the difference that are on these sheets, is the amount of monies that, and that's the $2.591 million that will be used for free cash, from free cash.
Okay, so could we get a mock recap sheet?
I give you a pro forma recap.
I
I can
like
give you a
it
pro
for
forma recap sheet.
16, for 16, so
For
we can
16.
see kind of all the ins and outs.
Right, you can do that.
And can I get that sheet back by any chance?
Where'd I put it?
The one that I gave you.
There we go. Sure you want it.
So again, it's 2.5. I think, well, it'll be helpful to see that recap sheet because
Right.
it sounds like there might be some questions. But in terms of, another revenue question, in terms of new growth, I know that we've always kind of over budgeted new growth. I think last year we had $1.5 million projected.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, well, I have our,
488,000.
I have our 15 projection was 1.1, and then the 16 projection was 1.6
For new growth?
for new growth, yeah.
As of what date? When did you get that report?
Those are older numbers,
All the
but
numbers, okay.
they were not supposed to include anything related to the casino or any other projections
Right.
or
First off, there was only-
assumptions. So
yeah.
I would think that,
Okay.
you know, those assumptions are over $1 million off.
No.
In terms of,
Can I just answer that, if I may, Counsel? Those projections were made at a time when, first of all, it was the casino, number one.
but we were told they weren't the casino,
No, if it was the casino, it wouldn't go into new growth.
right?
The casino would have shown up in a figure under our estimated receipts on page 3 of the recap sheet that was for recurring items, which I think is line 20 or 21. Looking at that, that's where that would occur. So if you got, say if you got the casino and I got the $6 million that we're supposed to get, it would have gone on the third page of the recap sheet.
Right.
And it would probably gone on 2021, the recurring or non-recurring, the recurring line.
370,000.
Yeah, that, it would have gone on there. And that's where it ended up. We're never shown, because we had that agreement, it would have never shown on the new growth because we weren't taxing it.
But I'm just making
Right.
the point, George, that,
But
that
somebody
our
said- yeah.
projection for new growth was at one time $1.1 million, and then for 16, it was $1.6 million. So there was obviously a projection that was off. I'm not
All right.
saying that,
I
I'm just
understand.
making the fact that, or the point
Right.
that we were told at that time, it wasn't related to the casino. But to now see new growth double this year, go from 435,000 to 770,000, while it's a lot less than the 1.6 that we had projected a few years
Right.
ago, it's still doubling. And I can't remember the last time we've had new growth double, but
What we had in 2006, 2007 was over $1 million on new growth, if you want to look at the figures. New growth was, at that time, I think it's 2005, 2006, in that area. It was over $1 million. What happened is that when we made those projections, the economy was a little different, too. We had more projects coming on board that didn't, when we sat down with the committee, and, which involved the Board of Assessors, the Building Department, the head of community development, the economic development, myself, and we looked at the figures, and we sat there and we went over them and made certain that what projections, with the information we had, whether it was could be as accurate as we possibly could put with the formulas we used.
Okay.
And looking at that, some of the projects didn't come to fruition. They just didn't come to fruition. But again, as I said, if it did show, if it was going to be something for the casino, it would have shown up on page 3, line 21 or 22. And I'm pretty sure non-recurring is 22.
And
Have a
then
recap sheet in front of you?
in terms of the fines and forfeitures, the increase that's related to 40U.
40U.
525,000.
Let me just explain that, is that
Do
we expect over the, and this is from our attorney.
Right.
Our attorney knowing, seeing what's happening and how it's done, and the way we have that, the program set up, and how quickly it can occur, he feels, and sitting down with and talking to the head of inspection services, looking at it, he feels we're going to collect over $3.2, $3.5 million over 3 years. So we guesstimated an amount for what we collect in the first year of 40Us, and we kept it low. If you go by what our estimate was, in 3 years, we collect probably like 21 million, because you're not going to collect everything on the spot. Just because I send out a bill, I don't collect taxes.
So that was
Right.
my question was
Right.
going to be,
Yeah.
is the 525 or the 525, is that a full year projection, or is that a pretty, kind of a lowball number in terms of, it sounds like it's more of a lowball number than.
What is that number for? The 525 is for what number?
The 525 is the increase in the fines and forfeitures.
Fines for, okay.
There's an increase of 525,000 in
Right.
fines and forfeitures.
It's actually a lowball number, and I'll tell you why, because again, we're going to collect, he's looking at $3.6 million, and if you go by
Okay.
3, and we increased that by, we're only looking at $21 million, $2.1 million in collections on the 40Us, where in actuality, you have to remember too, is with the 40U program, there's a different way of collecting these fines. This mic is crazy, but what happens is, either we have to raise the podium or I have to sit down.
We need a
But-
longer mic. We need a longer
A longer
mic.
mic. Pick it up, yeah, but, okay. I actually saw Donnie go and do that, and I made fun of him, but I can't do that. So what happened is that what occurs, again, is that we would only collect that amount. What happens with these 40Us, they go on the taxable. They become lien within, after the first 21 days and 30 days, they become liens right on the taxable at that point. They're not like a water lien. They become liens in the registry on your property after that period. I think it's 51 days. And then it increases at that point to $500. So looking at that and looking at the amount of money you can raise with that, and the purpose isn't, as the mayor said, isn't to fine people. The purpose is to make sure that people keep up their property, and that you have to be a good neighbor in your community. So that's one of the reasons why that is. But that 525 could be a lowball figure.
Okay, thank you, George. And
I'm sure you want me to be conservative, Counselor, correct? Okay.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
In terms of a couple of spending items, I know in the mayor's budget, there is a line item for, there's a line item for reserve contract negotiations that we had spent 1.6 out of in fiscal year 14. There is no money budgeted for 15, or there was no money budgeted for 15 and none for 16. So to assume that there is no kind of reserve for any union contracts that may be
Well,
negotiated.
there's a reason for that, because if you put a number in there, and this is what, being on the negotiating team, what I felt also, was if you put a number in there, now the union say, okay, we have this number. I would rather go to the union and say, okay, they asked for their questions, and I really don't want to talk about union negotiations at an open council meeting. I'd rather do it in an executive session. But the thought is that the best thing to do in negotiations is saying, okay, this is what we can afford.
And we don't have to get
Right.
into negotiation strategy. I'm just making the point
Yeah.
that if we do settle any contracts, we don't have the
We don't
bottom
have the money in
line,
there,
the bottom
no.
line nets out to zero.
Right.
Any contract that is approved or ratified
Right.
within the fiscal year is going to cost more money
It's going to cost more money.
and
That's
will
correct.
result in, rainy day, or free cash or rainy day reserves being used.
Right, free
in
cash
general.
stabilization, that's
Okay.
correct.
All
But the point again being is that, we understand that, and we're going into this with that understanding.
But and also, we understand that we're at a net zero for the year,
Right.
so that we're not expecting to have another year of free cash of $6 million. We're expecting to have.
No, we're not, but, I would say in an estimate, we're going to at least keep to the level which has been for the last few years, and again, I think this is a low ball figure, 2.5 million.
Right.
So we continuously get that, we're doing well, and I can say that, and I would say that to the financial markets if they ask me, because that can be defended.
Right. And what's a normal kind of average that a city has in free cash? Do we have any sense of
Well, what any
the
city
normal
has in free cash-
percentage, like, is there a percentage that,
Well, there's a percentage they ask
MMA
for
or-
is 5% of your total budget
right,
to be in reserves. That's what the money markets want.
Right.
However, when they see you're putting into it, you're growing, you are getting more free cash, you're doing things and putting in your stabilization fund, those are things that are positive. Those are things that are
so
positive.
5% would be about $8.5 million.
$8.5 million probably is what they're looking for. But how many cities and towns have it? That's another question.
Right.
That's another question, Council.
And then in terms of our post-employment benefits.
Right.
So.
The OPB, yeah.
OPEB,
Okay.
yeah. I know we have a $63 million liability.
Right.
Do we have any funds set aside for taking care of that liability in some respect?
Well, there's a number of ways we can take care of that. It doesn't have to come out of the operating budget. I understand that some people have actually bonded their amount, or a portion of their amount. We could do that. It hasn't been addressed. This has been a problem since the law was passed that it be included on the balance sheet back in, I think, 2008, 2009.
2008, that's correct. Yeah,
So,
2008.
looking at it, every time we went to address it, was either, okay, put money into the OPEB, or, which is a balance sheet item, or hire more police, fire, school teachers, city hall workers, staff, and so on and so forth. So, right now, again, as you know, it's a balancing act. But, there are other ways to fund that other than the operating budget. And we are looking into that, and we do want to get a plan down in order to do it. In fact, I'm the one that actually has my department has the actual table done, study done for the OPEB.
And then one final question. In terms of the capital improvement plan, I know we had appropriated some money, I think $45,000
Yes.
from stabilization. Is that what is included in the budget? The capital improvement plan that was included in the budget, is that the 45?
No, we haven't received the capital improvement plan as yet. The Collins Center is still working on it. They've been working on it for quite a while. They've interviewed every department, see what their needs are, gotten their needs drilled down and made in an importance level and graded each one as far as the importance level of each request. And they're still working on that. We're still working on, we went through a lot of work on our debt schedules, when we plan to put various borrowings or authorizations that aren't serialized at this time, putting them on, where to put them on the debt schedule. So it's still a work in progress. And
Okay.
you
I
can
just
see
wasn't sure if
No.
what we had paid for
No.
was what was provided to us.
No, no.
Okay. I don't know if any other counselors have questions about the Director of Finance's budget in particular. No? I know, banking services looked like it had increased a little bit more than what previously had been spent, about
Right.
70,000 over what was spent.
Right,
in
what happens is
actuals.
with banking services, we have to pay a certain amount for everybody that uses a credit card. So when they use a credit card, the city has to pick up that charge, and I put it through banking services.
Is that, so when people pay with a credit card?
Yes.
Or when the
When
city workers use a
No,
credit
no,
card?
no, when the city, no, no. When the city pays with a credit card, we have to pay a percentage of for the charge of using the credit card. So that's in there.
What do we use the credit card for?
We don't use a credit card when the citizen comes in.
Oh, when
and
people
pays, we
use,
use a
okay,
credit card.
all right.
That's
So
correct.
we negotiate that.
We negotiate that with the banks.
Okay.
Right.
What's our percentage?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay, no
Okay?
problem, no problem.
Yeah, I'll get it for you.
And obviously, health insurance is a budget buster. One thing that I did notice, fiscal year to date, what is that as of? So on the budget summary schedules, we have the actual 12, 13.
I think it's as of April,
Okay, the end of April?
Yeah.
Okay, so the
It's not as May 30th.
12.3, the 12.3 will end up being around 16
right,
when you figure in
Next to
the
it.
amount of payments that are left.
right.
Okay.
And don't forget, in June, you have a lot of your bonded debt payments are in June.
Right.
I never knew why, but they are. They like to do them in June.
Okay. Any other counselors? I think you're all set, George. You might want to stick around just if we have other questions
I'll
that.
stay here.
Hey,
Okay? I'll be sitting right here. Thank you.
thanks, George. All right. Next up, we will have the Board of Assessors. Andy, John, Dana, welcome. As soon as you have a mic, you'll be all set.
Good evening, Board of Assessors, John Bransford, Mayor Brady Ford, and myself. We submit the budget for the audit budget on that for the Board of Assessors. You'll notice that the request is down about $80,000. I will speak directly into the mic. And there's really not a lot of change. The thing I will point out is that 2018 is a full listed measure reval year for us. We've just gone through a reval in 2015. So that what we've done is we've done a cyclical kind of budgeting for 2018, so it doesn't hit the city all at once. And that's where you'll see we budgeted something in the order of $70,000 over the next 3 years to accomplish the full listed measure. And that's the difference you see. That's the 105. So it's this year we have an interim adjustment, which will cost us about $35,000, give or take, and we budgeted $70,000 for cyclical. Be happy to answer any questions.
Any counselors? Any counselors? Going once, going twice? No?
Alphabetically, we're the assessors, so we're first under the finance department.
So and just to clarify,
Sure.
the 105,000 for the reevaluation, I know usually that kind of is up and down.
Right.
What you're saying is that you're kind
well,
of spreading it out over
we're
the next couple
spreading
of
it out
years,
over
right?
3 years.
So you won't have that spike
Our,
necessarily.
our experience told us in 2008 that it hit all at once.
Right.
And it was very difficult for the budget.
To manage, right.
And it's much easier to spread it out. DOR, Department of Revenue, also recommends that you do the cyclical and you do it over 3 years.
Right, okay. I think councilors might be still looking for your budget, but. Get organized. Anything? No. I think we're all set.
You're all set? Thank you. Thank you as always.
Thank you. Next up, we have economic development. John, welcome. Thank you. Oh, can we, yeah, so we'll pause and I'll let folks look. Think. It's in front of the finance department. Yeah, well, welcome, John, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the City Council. My budget is pretty simplistic. It has not changed. It's the same in this fiscal year, this coming fiscal year, other than just one employee. The non-payroll items are something that we've used in the past in terms of economic development summits that we had. This year, what we're looking to do is we're looking on the plan review process. We've been actively negotiating with MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, to get to really get involved with us in this planning process. So we're looking for the allocation of funds under those items to really get MAPC involved with us. We're going to start, we had the first plan review session process, and we're going to now continue to be much, much, much more aggressive in the next couple of months. You know, what we've been doing over the past 6 months has been quite interesting. I've given over 25 tours in the city of Revere with developers all across the country, where we continue to use our aggressive approach in marketing the city of Revere. So the expenditures are the same, has not gone up at all. We're looking for the same allocation as we did the previous fiscal year, Mr. Chairman. And we're going to continue, as I stated, we're going to continue our aggressive approach in bringing developers in the city of Revere. One of the things that I'm quite happy with is that I even met with a big development company today from the western part of Massachusetts on a particular site. And one of the things that was said was that Revere is now, it's changing, number one. And number two is that it's a very good place to do business. And I feel very good about that, because we try every day and we work hard every day to try to, you know, really change the whole dynamics of the city in a very positive way. So we're seeing, as you probably, I know people have said this prior, that you're seeing a lot of things happening in the city, and I really believe that that's because of, you know, us going out and trying to attract major developers who have done developments in other communities within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we're seeing that happen. We're going to continue with no increases, and we're going to just continue our efforts to be very efficient in our expenditures. And as I stated, on the non-payroll items, it's really the majority of that is for MAPC. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to.
Thank you, John. Councilors, anyone? You? Yeah? Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I applaud you for your efforts and your diligence in seeking out the right, excuse me, the right type of development for the city. And while this question doesn't have a direct effect on your budget, it may someday have an effect on the overall budget of the city, and that is with regard to Ocean Avenue and Waterfront Square. Where are we now, if you could enlighten the council, with regard to a hotel, which we're all looking for? It's a lot of money for the city, it's commercial development, we get the room excise tax, and it's so important.
Absolutely, Council. Thank you. Very good question. I spoke with Mr. DeGangi as of last Saturday, and because there's a lot of rumors out there that I want to stop to that tonight. It's progressing very, very nicely. There's 3 different options that he's going to have, and that's with a Marriott, a Hyatt, or a Hilton. And that's roughly right now, we're looking at a 155-room hotel. And, you know, there's been rumors that have been going around stating that it's not going to be a quality hotel. And I want to just tell you right up front, that's not the case. It's going to be a quality hotel with actually 40,000 square feet of retail, a retail component that's going to be built in conjunction with the hotel. But to get back to your question, it is moving forward. We should have some news some in the month of July. There's certain deadlines that have to be met. And, you know, we obviously, on the Waterfront Square development, we have the 2 residential components that are under construction right now. And believe me, one of the things that we're working very diligently on is to get that hotel moving and get that built. Because we really believe that, you know, one of the things that we look as a vision is to not only bring in the residential component, because I think that's essential to bring in the retail, but we need to aggressively keep pursuing the hotel aspect, and that is moving along. And obviously, I wish it was today, but I'm being told that there'll be some news in July, and so I'm excited about that. But we're not only looking just at the Waterfront Square development. I mean, I don't want to get into too much, but I won't take too much of your time because I know it's late. But one of the things that has been mentioned is that one of the things that Frank Stringy has been working on is that creative zone. We think that we look at the beachfront as, okay, we're having residential investment and opportunities, but we're also looking to see if we can create a district where we have galleries and shops and retail components. So we're constantly looking at that. It's a little bit more difficult because obviously, as you know, sometimes the market dictates what the interest is from developers. But I can assure you, one of the things that when developers do come in from a residential aspect, one of the things that we are very concerned about, and if you notice the breakdown of 1 and 2 bedroom units, it's more studios and 1 bedrooms and smaller units. And there's a reason for that, more upscale market rate. So we're very excited about the potential and a lot of the things that are going on, but we're going to continue to, we think that once that hotel goes forward, we'll attract others as well. But it's been a long haul, but we just have to keep going.
So you would say sometime in July, then?
We're going to have news in July about which development company and which brand it will be.
Yeah, and I think most Marriotts that I've stayed in are the quality hotels, as the Hiltons.
Yes.
I don't know about the other. I've never stayed in one, but
It's my opinion right now, and like I said, as of last week, those are 3 good options.
thank you, Frank. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Council Powers. Council Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of touched upon an answer for my question, but each department had to submit goals. For economic development, it was to refocus commercial development along Revere Beach, to expand the commercial tax base, which will end result will relieve residential taxpayers of their rate. So my question is, this is more toward the administration, but what is your vision for Revere Beach in the future? Is it all residential? Is it all commercial? Is it?
Absolutely. Our vision on Revere Beach is really a mixed component. You need the you need the residential component to drive the retail. We see certain areas more conducive to residential development than others. We think that the southerly portion of Revere Beach is more conducive to commercial development, retail development. As you go a little bit further north, near the Point of Pines area, where the former Ocean Club is, we think that's more of a residential area. So our vision is to really make Revere a destination. We'd like to have a mixed component. We'd like to have, my frustration is that we, as I stated earlier, the market really dictates what the investment opportunities are from a developer standpoint. We can say that, I'd like to see 2 or 3 more hotels, and believe me, we work very, very diligently to try to get these hotel developments. It's very difficult because what happens is, I might have stated at a previous meeting, that one of the things that some other communities have, and I'll refer to Chelsea because sometimes you're seeing development in hotels there, but the advantage that they have is they have a process where an urban planning development where the land value, the land is actually put up, whereas I'm dealing with a lot of individual private owners that are looking to do the best for their families, which is fine, but sometimes the additional costs, it's all about numbers with developers in terms of if they can make it work on the commercial aspect. So getting back to your question, our vision is to have really almost like a mini seaport district where you see commercial development, you see residential development, you see shops. I think you need to we want people to stay in Revere and spend money in Revere and create jobs. So every day, that's what we try to do from an overall perspective on the beachfront. In different areas, there may be some, in Wonderland and some others where it's maybe a little different.
Thank you for that vision.
Thank you, Council Morabito. Council Ridd.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, thank you for coming down tonight. A couple of things I want to talk about, and again, your vision, again, of increasing retail and commercial is right, where I want us to be on these things, because as you know, when we overemphasize residential development, we end up with sometimes more problems than we fix. And I'm not talking about, smart residential development. I know that the Shaw's site is coming potentially online, and we went there and saw what they had in mind. And frankly, it's an adult development. It appears to be in any case, if it mirrors what they're doing in Chelsea. So that's all well and good. But in that same vein, I think the 600-pound elephant in this, or gorilla in this room right now, is not so much what's happening on Revere Beach, because that's kind of protected out, and it makes sense that there would be residential development there. The big question is what's going to happen with our 80-odd acres at Suffolk Downs. And I would just remind you, and by the way, I know that this issue with our lawsuit against the Gaming Commission is ongoing. I drank the Kool-Aid on that a long time ago. I am absolutely behind that, and I think what happened to us was unfair and uncalled for. But beyond that, there's no guarantee that my thoughts about that are going to change anything. So going forward, we know that there's going to be massive development on that property over there at some point, somehow, somewhere down the line. And I just want to reiterate to you that this city council, when we approved the zoning changes that Suffolk Downs is looking for in order for them to get their plan together, we reserved the right to permit residential development on that site only by special permit. And I will say this, speaking from my point of view, if that site is going to be a combination of residential and retail and commercial development, the commercial and retail better be on our side of the fence, because this city cannot absorb residential development, the type that I'm afraid is going to go in there in particular. And what we really do need, as you have suggested, is to increase our commercial and retail base. And that, to me, needs to be the focus of that 80 acres in there. And you can pass that on, from my perspective at least, to anybody interested. So if Boston can do what it wants, we have no control over what they do on the vast majority of that property. But we have control over what we can allow to have happen to it. And I hope I speak for the rest of the city council that we're determined to see that we get retail and commercial development in that area. And one other point I would like to make. I am very happy to hear that Mr. DeGangi has finally determined that it's time to put a hotel and I'm sure my fellows on the city council feel the same way. But I want him to be reminded that he made an agreement some time ago to enforce our union agreements, our Revere hiring agreements, and I think he's failed in that thus far. I'm not looking to weep and cry over what happened in the past, but I'm certainly looking to see that his promises regarding union labor and regarding Revere labor are met when if and when this hotel is developed in there, and I hope you pass that along to him as well.
Absolutely will.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you, Council Ridden. Council Janino.
Thank you. I think my colleagues have made some really great points, but what I really wanted to speak about is how happy I am to see the list of accomplishments that are on this budget, and it's quite a lengthy list, and the most important thing is it's all businesses. There's not a high residential factor in the accomplishments, and what's even more promising is the list of goals and the retail goals in this. It's not residential goals. There's a lot of retail aspects that we're looking into building in the city, and I think that we have a lot of potential and a lot of things happening right now. And one of the greatest things that I've heard is every single developer that I've met with over the past few months has mentioned the first thing they did is met with you and how happy they were with your office and meeting with you and going over plans with you. So I really want to commend you on that. And I know it must take a lot of time to meet with all of these developers and all of these people, but thank you for taking the time to do that and for looking into the best interests of our city, because I think that it really is starting to show. And I'm excited to see more retail. You know, not residential, because I don't think we need any more of that, but more retail. And I think that we have so much potential, and we have so many great little hidden gems in Revere of restaurants and shops. And I think that bringing in more retail and more well-known retail will only emphasize our small family businesses in the city, which we grew from. You know, my family started as a family business, as many did in Revere, and I'd really like to see them thriving. And I think that we're off to a fantastic start, and you've accomplished a great deal in this year, and I'm looking forward to next year. Thank you.
Counsel. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Council Janino. Council Guanasso.
You know, the only thing that can be said for John Fester is that every single development that's going on in our community, he gives us a call ahead of time and tells us what's going on, what's taking place, what the benefit for Revere is, what the negative part of it is, and it certainly gives us information so that if any of our constituents have concerns, he gives us the ability to, at least professionally, speak to our constituents with some sort of knowledge of what's taking place. So and he calls all the time in reference to that, and he speaks to the issue very clearly. Certainly, John, so far you've been really a pleasant asset to our community, but having been a councilor, serving the dean of the council, served with you as a city councilor, I know the type of individual you are, and I knew that nothing short of that would be forthcoming. So the city of Revere gains again from your knowledge and your good spirit and your willingness to work very hard for a good effort, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, Counsel, very much. I appreciate
Thank
the
you,
comments.
Mr. Chairman.
My pleasure. Sure.
Sorry about that. Council Ridden had brought up the Suffolk Downs site, and we are lucky to have kind of the keys to the kingdom in terms of the zoning, that I think we'd be hard pressed to change that zoning to residential. In terms of what's going on at Wonderland, is there any, I know we've heard talk about master plan for a while. Is there any kind of further developments in terms of Wonderland?
Yes. One of the things that we're doing in Wonderland, there's a meeting set up as of next week dealing with ownership to move that forward, to press them to go forward to master plan that property. We don't want to be, the Suffolk Downs property is a little bit different. I think that's going to be on hold a little bit, obviously, and we all know that. But the Wonderland property, there's no reason why we can't go forward now and master plan that property, so we're not behind another 2 years. So we called ownership. We are meeting with them next week. We are going to work with them in terms of master planning that site to come up with the best number of options and I can give you my word that we will keep you all informed in terms of when the meetings are, what we're doing, how we're doing it. But we're going to be very aggressive in the next couple of months in dealing with Wonderland, because we feel like that is, we have two as Councilman Reardon said, we have two pieces of property that are so valuable, but it has to be done right. And, you know, there's a lot of interest in Wonderland, and there's a lot of different options and different components of that. And we think that, you know, by working with ownership, because obviously we have to do that, it needs to be done. But we're doing it in an aggressive approach with them now because it's going to be started as of next week, Councilor. Next week we're going to start it. And, but, you know, as I stated, the ultimate goal is to have something very, very aggressive by, you know, preliminary by the end of the year,
And then in terms of the Shad site, which is another topic that was brought up,
Sure.
do we have any plan for the other parcels that are in that area, right? So you have, obviously, the elephant in the room is Suffolk Downs. In terms of that area and the Beachmont neighborhood. But aside from the Shad site, there is the MBTA parking lot.
Yes.
There is the Luigi's kind of piece of property.
Right.
Is there any kind of plan or any thought of not just the Shad site, but the entire area and what we'd like to see happen? Because I know the Shad site, from what we understand now, doesn't have any commercial aspect to it,
Right.
which is unfortunate in my mind. But is there potential for, or are we thinking about commercial development in some of those other pieces of property? Are we looking at that area as an entire area rather than just one piece and one parcel? Because that's what we've done for so long, is look at one piece, one piece of property, and not kind of the surrounding area and what that means for everybody else and everything else, and the traffic impacts and some other things. But
Absolutely.
is there ongoing kind of thought about those other pieces of property? And I guess you could even lump in the trailer park, which is a little bit further down, but in my mind, that's all a gateway to the beach. And those properties are valuable, and they could be kind of coordinated in a way that would be helpful for the whole neighborhood.
Absolutely. In the past, you're absolutely correct, Councilor. It was done in a situation where it was done by lots, different lots. We just had a meeting last week with the Ward 1 Councilor, with Mr. McKenna, with the MBTA. And we feel like that lot is so underutilized the way it is right now. We feel that the necessity for more parking with retail, or maybe on the first floor, we talked about that, about doing something on that property. They are willing to work with us with a plan to develop that property. There was a willingness. And along with the Beachmont Improvement Association and the Ward Councilor, in conjunction with that property, we looked at the Luigi site. There was a company that came forward, very preliminary, in terms of doing some residential with retail on the first floor. Have a commercial component and retail on the first floor. But it was very, very, very preliminary. But we look at that site, we look at both of those sites as a possibility where it's so close to the station and so close to the T that we think that is really conducive to commercial development, retail development. Because if you have some shops and retail there with some more parking that could be available, that we can maybe share some revenue in, it's a win-win situation for us. Because if we have residential on the shore site, if that goes, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But if it does, we feel that we can tie in the MBTA parcel with Luigi's parcel, and quite honestly, we want to tie in the beach. We want to tie in that creative zone on going towards the beach. So we're looking at it from a multiple lot perspective, not just individually. So we're hoping that the MBTA and the Luigi's parcel brings that commercial component as well.
Councilor McKenna.
Hi, John. I think with all this construction being coming to Beachmont and Ward 1, I think one of the biggest concerns is the traffic. There's a very limited way to get in and a very limited way to get out. And we have school buses, we have buses tying up traffic. There's 2 lanes to go into Beachmont, 1 lane to come out from Beachmont. If in case there was any kind of disaster up there. It would be difficult for the firefighters to get up there, or, any emergency units. I think the fire station would have to be, looked at to reopen, just in case all this commercial development came in. But I mean, how are we going to fix the traffic if we bring all these units in? I think that's the biggest concern with all these people. And the other thing is the pedestrians. Pedestrians, if you have 482 people living in a 300-unit facility in Shaw's, they're going to stop the traffic from crossing the street, so traffic is going to get tied up. So we have to look at that too. And if there's any mitigation money for Donley Square, because I think that's going to be impacted with all this development coming in. So do you have any answers for that?
Absolutely. That's a very good question, Councilor. Traffic is always a concern. When you have new development, traffic is always an issue. But one of the things, if you notice, some of these developers are coming in, and I'll even talk about the Shaw site a little bit. One of the things that's a little bit different on the Shaw site from what that developer is targeting is the Millennium Group, from 25 to 35-year-olds. A majority of those individuals, if you look at some of the developments that they've done in Chelsea and other developers, quite honestly, in Somerville, the number of cars that they have there on site with the number of units, it's not as much as if you would have like a supermarket or that you would have some other type of commercial component. So we look at it from the perspective that whatever developments occur in those areas, you're absolutely right. There's a traffic element that needs to be dealt with. That's why, but when we say to them is, okay, look at the number of the breakdown, like I mentioned before, one-bedrooms, studios, what is the ratio of parking, who are you trying to target? And one of the things that I'm happy with some of the developers that are coming in is that they're targeting this group, because it not only will not have a major impact in terms of traffic, yes, it will have a traffic impact, but it's going to be limited as to what could have happened, but it also, it helps in other aspects as well. So we're looking at it, that when a development comes in for residential, how is it going to affect schools? That's one of the biggest things that we think about all the time. We do not want these developers to come in to do residential that's going to affect our school systems. So they're trying to target a certain market that they're supposedly, if you look at the market studies just recently, it's in great demand. We're trying to limit the exposure and the amount of traffic we could possibly can. We're going to deal with Frank Stringy for community development. We talk about traffic concerns, how we're going to do it, what is the best avenue to be the most efficient, and whether it's the breakdown or lowering the number of units, whether it's breakdown of trying to get this millennial group. It's really a lot of different factors that come into play, but we try to minimize that element of traffic in schools. Okay.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna. I just want to make one follow-up question or comment. It's the same kind of conversation that we had about Overlook, if I remember correctly, that the target was going to be, the target audience for Overlook was going to be younger professionals who weren't going to use city services. We now have a lot of kids coming out of there, and I think that a lot more kids than we had anticipated. And how do we prevent, if we do move forward, how do we prevent that from happening again? Because the target audience was a certain demographic that has kind of changed, and I think that's what people hear and people listen to and understand is, well, they said that before and that didn't work out. So that's just one kind of food for thought, or a little food for thought. And then the other is in terms of traffic, and it may be a conversation for the engineering department or even the planning department, but have we thought about bringing on a traffic engineer on staff to help with if we're going to have all of this work being done, we're going to have 900 units coming online down the beach, and we're going to have, the BJ site being developed and the Shaw site potentially being developed on top of Wonderland and on top of Suffolk Downs, there is going to be a traffic impact. Have we had any kind of conversations about maybe bringing somebody on staff who's on kind of our side, and rather than depending on the traffic engineers who provide traffic engineering studies that may shade towards a developer. If we have somebody on staff who can say, you know what, this is what we should be looking for, these are the points of pain for residents, and this is what we can do to kind of help that. And having that person kind of defend us early on and be in meetings about development, we may have a little bit better luck in actually executing some changes that will help the traffic. So just kind of two ideas. And I don't know if you have any comment.
Sure. On the first one, on the first idea, in terms of overlook, I wasn't here when that was built, but the difference that I'm seeing with overlook compared to like some of the developments like the Shaws or maybe like in that area is the blue line, the ability to be able to access that so quickly. And I think that even if they market an overlook, you know, as young professionals, I still think, and if that did not happen, if I don't know what the dynamics are, quite honestly, but in terms of what the breakdown is, but if that's not happening there, I can understand it. But where you have 3 stops on the blue line, and from, you know, I'm being told that, you know, the group is such there's such a growth spurt with them that they have that availability and they use it. So that's someone. So that's why I think the difference is there. In terms of bringing someone on staff, I wouldn't be adverse to that. You know, it's been talked about just briefly. It really comes down to funding. I mean, and if we had the funding, I would absolutely agree. We rely heavily on, you know, our building department to be able to come forward when we sit down in the site plan review to be able to go through all the traffic mitigation and how can we curb it and so forth. If the funding was there, I would be in favor of something like that, Councilor. We try to really try to do whatever we can in-house as much as we can, but it's something to look at, absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor.
Point of information here,
Councilor Patch?
yes, and you brought up my ward, Overlook Ridge there. I do have some facts, as a matter of fact, on, I do keep my eye on that because, especially the school. And it really is, I think it still is principally young people. They do have their own services, bus service into Boston. Also, I think the last count I had was 35 maybe students coming out that go to the Revere school system. So it's basically still a young group that live there, and basically they stopped developing in Revere, and they're putting up 2 brand new buildings in Malden. I think because of the administration, they can't build any more apartments in Revere until they build a hotel. So I have been watching it. Like I say, the last count I had was 35 students out of there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Patch. Councilor McKenna?
Name. Not only are we going to, this is for food for thought, but not only are we going to have a traffic impact, but we're going to have a pedestrian impact too. Because if these people don't own cars, they're going to be walking to the T station. And from Shaw's, they're going to be stopping traffic. So, I mean, that's something that we have to think about too, is pedestrian impact. So, because right now they have 482 people in, I think it's a 240 unit in Chelsea. We're going to have a 300-unit facility in Shaw's, which is a smaller space, and we'll probably get, 5 or 550 people in there. So, I mean, you're talking about an impact in pedestrians too, not only in traffic. So I think that's something we have to consider.
Absolutely. That one of the things that that's a DCR road. We will be dealing with DCR to make recommendations in terms of crosswalks, signalization, things of that nature, to be able to have people have that safety ability to be able to get to the T and to be able to get to the beach and things of that nature.
Maybe an overpass,
That's a possibility as well.
a walkover.
Walkover, sure. You know, so all the options are on the table when we deal with DCR, and that's a time when you're going to, yes.
Thank you, Council McKenna. Council Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regard to the Shaw's project, my major concern is, and I'll be right up front, when we went and looked over at the project in Chelsea, and again, they're talking about 300 units of Shaw's, and they're saying that, well, only 25% of them are going to be two-bedroom units. That tells me that they're planning on putting, in addition to the ones in the studios, 75 two-bedroom units in that complex, which to me, and nobody will ever convince me any different, that means children going into the school system. Because most people are not renting a two-bedroom unit unless they have a child in there going into the school system.
Okay. One of the things that the markets are showing on the two bedrooms, they're roughly 950 square feet in that area. And what they're targeting on the two-bedroom component is the young professionals who are either in the workforce, going to school with a roommate, and that it would not be conducive to children. That's what the market's showing. That's what a number of developers are suggesting and showing the data for that. So that's what, and I understand, Council, your concern on two bedrooms, because that's always a concern, like in other areas of the city when we're looking at two bedrooms. I always look at the square footage and see how big these units are, and then what the market is, what the target is. And so, a two-bedroom that size, would it bring in children? The market's not showing that. I mean, I understand your concern. I respect that. It's just not showing on the data. And, one of the things we're very concerned about, obviously, and you're right, is we do not want it to affect schools. Any type of residential, we do not want it to affect the school systems. We're burdened enough, and we understand that. And believe me, that's a clear message that I get from all of you and from the administration, quite honestly.
And the other thing is, you're talking 300 units here, you're talking a potential of 90 units over by Luigi's, 231 units on Squire Road, 900 units down on Ocean Avenue, fire engine 2 out of service down on the Point of Pines. That leaves those people on the Lower Revere Street, Oak Island, Point of Pines area in a very vulnerable position, because common sense tells us that 900 units, you're going to have medicals down there, you're going to have the potentials for more accidents. It just doesn't.
No, there's no question. As the city expands, the need for public services in terms of fire apparatuses and things of that nature, we had a meeting with the fire chief, and there's obviously there's a clear desire we need some type of facility to be able to make sure that the residents are safe, and we're definitely working on that, because there would be a need with that many units that are going, that there could possibly be built in and within that area. That is something that would definitely be a need for the safety of the people in the city of Revere.
My one last question to you is the administration aggressively seeking to get the monies, the $25 million and the transportation bond bill released to put in that commuter station in back of Wonderland, which was the intent of the money? In my opinion, it would make the site more looked at more by developers.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have an entire group from the North Shore you can bring in there. It would also reduce some of the traffic on 1A, which is heavily impacted, as is the Boulevard and 107. And it would just make it more attractive for a developer.
Absolutely. I can tell you that is a priority. We're working very aggressively to see that happen from a number of different perspectives. We can bring people in. It makes the property on the one land more conducive to a better development. And that's definitely one of our priorities, and we're working aggressively on that, Councilor.
Okay, I would hope so. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Council President Powers. Thank you, John, for your time, and thank you for addressing all our issues. Thank you. Next up, we have Planning and Community Development. Any councilors? Oh, hi, Frank. let you do your spiel if you have one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All I have to say is that our budget this year is $274,589. It's down $30,000 from last year. That supports a staff of 6 individuals in my office, 3 of which are funded through grants, and there's 3 of us that are on the city budget.
Any councilors have any questions? Councilor Powers.
Frank, I have your budget in front of me, and what I'm showing is a reduction of 64,000, 68,000. That's the things that you had asked for and the mayor had cut out. The Assistant Director of Housing and the Housing Intake Officer. Those are funded by grants?
Those are totally funded by grants, yes.
Okay. I really don't see anything else in your budget other than, what was there before.
Any other councilors?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing there.
Frank, you don't have much on your budget, but.
I told you that. Thank you.
I know we've talked about it before. Do you have a list of grants or kind of a schedule of grants for 15 and for 16? I know we've asked for it before, and I think we've gotten it before. But
Yeah, we typically provide that. with the
Okay.
budget. If you haven't received it yet, we'll do that.
Okay. I think you can enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Frank. The next is City Auditor.
Hi, how are
Good
you?
evening, Lori. Thank you for joining us, sticking around.
Hi, how are you?
Any councilors? Councilor Janino? Oh. Not yet. Lori, I'm going to kick it off. Unless you want to have a couple of words about the budget or want to give us a little overview.
No,
Okay.
it was, if you had any specific questions, the only thing that really is changing for me, and we'll be sending up some transfer requests in the year-end types of things that we normally do, has to do with the insurance premiums. And when I was before you last year, I explained to you, and this happens every year, we don't really know what's going to happen with insurance. And sometimes it doesn't go up that much, and then other times it will jump up a lot. And this past year, it did go up quite a bit. We're in the process for fiscal year 2016. Every 3 years, we go out to bid with a consultant who reviews all of our policies and makes sure that we have the proper coverage, and then goes out to market and sort of gets us the best price that we can and markets it with other carriers. And so the increase is due to what the policy coverage is right now and what we're sort of forced into paying. And hopefully we'll get some adjustment this year, but we don't really know what that's going to be until the RFP process is completed, which will be sometime the end of this month, the beginning of July.
And so the increase is an assumption of going back out to bid and what?
And knowing what the actual numbers were. So last year, when I gave you a total of $706,000,
Right.
that number was much lower than what the actual quote was that came in. So the 863 really reflects closer to what we paid this year. I think we're this year somewhere around 825.
Okay.
And so I assumed a small increase, but I really don't know what that number is going to be until we get all of this back.
Okay. So the fiscal year to date is, we have it at 675, but it's really around 820?
Right.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Any councilors? Councilor Has.
Laurie, have we settled with the insurance companies pertaining to the tornado?
With regards to the tornado, what we did receive was a lump sum payment, initial payment. I think I remember it around $750,000. And we have been working with the consultant to have the architect do some work and work with the insurance company. We've had a committee working on that, trying to figure out what the actual cost is going to be. And I think that's around $3 million, right, George, that we're expecting?
Yes, we do have a committee, and what we're making certain of, we haven't settled with the insurance company, but we do have a public adjuster. I'm very frustrated with this microphone. Public adjuster, and in doing it, it's not your fault, I know, Ashley. But the thing is that we're going with the public adjustment. We want to make sure all our costs are included. So what we're doing is we have this committee meeting, open meeting every Thursday at 1 o'clock, the standing meeting, and it's made up of myself, the Public Works Director, the purchasing agent, the head of maintenance in the school department, the head of the school department, the head of the school department, and the mayor and his alternative, Miles Lane Kelly. And we meet, and we're in a process that we have to follow, which is very frustrating. And why it's so frustrating, we have to follow the Massachusetts general laws, who don't provide for an emergency other than DCAM. And we've received all the DCAM waivers that we needed to receive. However, what's happened is that now to follow the process, we first had to get a project manager, and then we had to get a, I know this might be boring some, but I want to give a full answer here, is a project manager, and then we had to get a designer, and the designer is now going through the process. He's given us a report on the damage at all the buildings except City Hall. We're waiting for the damage report for all the, for City Hall, which will be probably at the middle of July. And at that point, then we're going to have a construction engineer put numbers on according to the damage. So we just don't know what the damage is right now. Some of the information that we received, the public adjuster did not carry in his report, and we're having the construction, excuse me, the designer and the project manager talk to the public adjuster to make certain that all of our claimants filed completely.
Now, as far as that's concerned, it's taken a long while for this procedure to unfold, all right? Why is it taking so long? I mean, you've got, look at the
Simple.
look at the ceiling here, look at your office.
Yeah, I haven't been in my back office for, since last July.
Right.
So the reason being is because, again, we've had the city apply for waivers from DCAM, and we received the waivers we had to get. As far as the ceiling and everything else, they don't consider that an emergency. And under the Massachusetts general laws, you have to follow this process, which is very laborious.
Yeah, but
It's
you would
very
get
laborious.
mold.
Huh?
Don't they consider mold?
Well,
A
we had
serious
it, we had it
condition?
tested for mold, and they said there is mold in the building, but there's no more than there would be in any other building. We had environmental quality engineers come in, and they said there's no more mold here. The report was that there was no more mold than usual, and it's not at a dangerous level. So that's the other part of it, and we've discussed this with them. In fact, we've had Attorney Capizzi, our city solicitor, talk to DCAM and get any waivers we try to get. But the point is that you have to, it's a process, and it's just a slow process that is laborious. It truly is laborious. You know, I want to get back in my back office. I haven't been in there over almost a year. There's other things in this building we want to get fixed, and hopefully we'll get to that point. But I think it'll move much quicker now that we have the beginning steps. We've had the designer. Then after the designer then has to put out a set of specs in order to have that go out for a bid. And once that's done, then we can start construction. I mean, it's very frustrating. But every time you try to take a step and you think you're taking a step forward, the Massachusetts general laws come back. And although we complain about Marie Zalendi, she keeps us in line as far as the, did I say we complain? I'm sorry, Marie. You complain? So anyway.
Who's the PA we're using?
Pardon me?
Who's the public adjuster?
The public adjuster is Paul Winnick from Newton. Paul Winnick from Newton. And he's done a lot of big cases, and we just want to make certain, because also what goes into the claim is the fee that we pay both the project engineer and the designer. So we have to wait until we find out what their total fee is going to be, and that's why to close the claim is going to be hard. He's gotten us some money, what, $700,000, $750,000, and he did want to, oddly enough, they wanted to close the claim, 6 months ago, and we decided, don't close this claim, because we're finding things that we're uncovering things that the damage from the tornado was more extensive than we thought in various buildings, and that's the other part of it. So the investigation of everything is causing a time lag, so that's what we're looking at. Yeah, it is ongoing. But there is a meeting, if anybody wants, a public meeting on Thursday at 1 o'clock, right here in the council chambers.
Thank you, Councilor Has. Any other councilors? Councilor Powers.
Yes, this is more or less for Judge Anzoni. I've noticed going into the, going across the street from the Youth Center building, you can see the facade is all rotted. There's portions of the roof that are damaged. I mean, isn't there the possibility that that could cause mold with the rains getting in there over a year? And if so, has it been tested? Because we have children utilizing those buildings.
Right. We have had that tested. As I said, we had a air quality engineer in here, environmental engineer, to test any mold in any of our buildings. They said there's mold in every building, and however, there's no high level of mold, a dangerous level of mold in any of our buildings. You know, we keep an eye on that. And again, because we're also worried about the children and our employees that work in the buildings, and the students that work in the school. But the extent of the damage is it's expanding, actually. It's expanding, especially as far as, say, the last report we got, it showed they did an infrared of the Revere High School roof, and 95% of that roof has to be replaced. Now, you only see certain holes. When you go up there and look, there's only certain holes you see. But what happened is the wind got underneath and caused the water to get underneath and lifted the roof. But nobody saw that before. The adjuster didn't see it, even though it was up there, and he said to, he said, well, I did see it. This part of the roof has to be fixed. And I think there's a portion, if I'm not mistaken, over the cafeteria. But what happened is once they did the infrared, they showed us the infrared pictures, and we ought to report on it. And what happened is that most of it has to be replaced. 95% of it has to be replaced. But as far as the youth center, again, it has to follow its course. So we have to follow the course with every building, so that we're making a decision now whether it is, Marie, what's the term? Project manager, not manager, no, yeah, what is that? What's that stand for? Pardon me? Not the OPM. No. I'm not making myself clear. It's the way we're going to put out the construction out to bid. So that's what we're looking at now. There's another way, if you go over a certain amount, whether you have one person doing all the construction, and that way you don't have to deal with all types of little vendors. And we have to go to the Attorney General's office for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Powers. Any other councilors? Laura, I had one question about the financial analyst that you had submitted, but it was cut. What recommendations or what issues was that position going to work on?
Well,
I only ask because there's a little note about that the position would address management letter recommendations, so I didn't know what specifically that would be dealing with.
well, the management, the outside auditors had recommended that we do some additional auditing of each department on a regular basis. Also, to do some other internal reviews, that type of thing on departments, but based on the workload that my office currently has and a lot of the newer projects that have been taken on by us, such as the SRF reconciliations and all that type of thing, we don't have the time to be able to do all of that. And we do what we've always done in terms of financial reporting and putting together the budget, but there's more workload coming in with, there's so many different things that we're taking on and accomplishing here now. So I just felt that we could get more done and if we had another person in our
Right.
office.
Okay. Thanks. Any other councilors? Oh.
I just was, if you had questions about the retirement as well, because Carolyn had to leave, I can try to answer whatever questions you have since I'm here before I leave. And basically, we're waiting for the actuary study to come in, which we're not sure exactly when the final one will be here. It'll probably be sometime in July.
Right.
And right now, we're quoting what we put in the budget, the amount that has been on the schedule until we get the new actuary study. But that is expected to increase. We're just not sure what that number's going to be yet.
Okay. So if that increases, that will create a little bit of a hole.
A little bit.
Yeah,
But we'll
it shouldn't be-
we
it
would
should be
have to
manageable.
come back to you at
Right.
that point.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and the only question I had about retirement was related to other post-employment benefits that George had talked about, so.
Okay.
Any other councilors? All right. We'll bring the city solicitor up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just like you mentioned too, as far as that position is concerned, the finance department is going to look for a way to address it in a different manner. So that's what we're looking at, and that's why it was cut out of the budget. Okay.
Still awake, Paul?
I am. Very interesting. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? I'll just start, unless people have questions they want to ask me first. There's not a lot of changes to my budget. There's actually only two significant changes. One is the addition of the hearings officer for the 40U. The other is the increase in the settlement and release account, which has traditionally been $15,000, has now been increased to $25,000.
Any councilors? Councilor Janino?
Thank you. I just had one small question, actually two, about the office supplies and the other expenses. It looked like the office supplies went up from about $1,800 to $7,500, and then the other expenses from about $1,800 again to $34,000. So I was just wondering if there was anything maybe IT related or that you're anticipating that's coming in. And
There was a shift. We switched, actually, it's the same amount of money. What we did is we took money out of one and put it in the other. So one went up and one went down. And I think we took out software, which went down from 9 to 6,300, and then we increased the office supplies. And the reason for that really was the classification of the Westlaw and the online services. For some reason, some of these things were in the wrong categories, and I think actually Councilor Reardon may not remember this, but he raised this about 3 budgets ago. And so we finally got around to reclassifying it. So you'll notice that on the office supplies now is equipment maintenance. That for some reason was under software, which is the repair of the copy machine. So,
I assumed it was something IT related, because usually when you see something like that, it's either new phones or some sort of software. So
No, it
I'm
was just
glad
a-
that we're up to date on that, but I was just curious as to what it was. But thank you for clarifying that.
no problem.
Thank you, Councilor Janino. Councilor Reardon.
Yes, Paul, just, you did happen to mention the increase in the settlements, releases and settlements category here. What is, what is the cause of that? And B, describe to us, please, if you could, what exactly that line item covers.
Certainly. Actually, I think, and I've argued or requested many, many times in the budget, that the amount was always much too low. When I started this job in '01, it was $10,000. And that was to settle all the claims without attorneys generally, and sometimes with attorneys for pothole damage, public ways, if someone falls, things of that nature. As you can imagine, especially you, Councilor Reardon, if a senior citizen trips and falls on the sidewalk, well, it doesn't take much to get up to $5,000 or $10,000 worth of damage. And I try to be fair with all of the claims that come in. So for the last few years, I've been juggling with $10,000, $15,000, and this year, as fate would have it, the snowstorm increased. I think we've got over 120 claims in my office. Generally, we hover around 70 to 80, sometimes 90, so this was the largest. So if we were to try to compensate everyone for things that I believe, based on the evidence that's presented to me by the department that's responsible, whether it be DPW for potholes, I try to be fair with all the claims that come in. So if I was to allocate some money to somebody, I would very quickly chew up that $10,000 or $15,000. So 25 gives us a little more breathing room, and I'm hoping to do what I've been doing and actually not exceed that amount, but we'll see how it goes this fiscal year. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Reardon. Actually, one question
Sure.
on top of, on that point. Is there a way to get a breakdown of the settlement amount? I know it's a small amount, but just to get a sense of
What was paid out to
what
whom
was
and when?
paid out, yeah.
Sure.
And not necessarily to who, because I don't know if that's, information
No, it's
that
public record, I believe.
we can't share, okay. And then my other question was, in terms of the outside legal services, I know that line item has, is around $200,000. Is that all of the outside attorney fees that we spend as a city, or are there other places where?
It's a good majority. I believe that there are certain areas that do not come out of my budget. I believe the lawyers for the unions, I believe the lawyer on the consent decree, those are paid out of other areas that George could address.
Yeah.
But my budget does cover all the lawsuits that come in, the title work, land use issues that come up, that come through my office.
Okay. And so, George, where are those other lawyer fees kind of, where do they hit?
Okay. The other legal fees are tax title. We have a tax title firm that handles the fees, but what happens with that amount is that the delinquent taxpayer pays for those directly. They pay the city, and it gets passed through. So it's recorded as being paid by the city if you look at our books, but it's not. We collect the monies from the taxpayer, the attorney, before they foreclose.
It comes off the top, basically. It
right.
comes off of the top
It
of
comes off top of what they pay.
of whatever they pay.
Right, it's not out of an appropriation. Some is out of an appropriation, but not the majority of it. Then, as far as the consent decree attorney is paid directly by Mohegan Sun, if I'm not mistaken. No, you're talking the consent decree. That's out of the water and sewer. But the one for the, thank you, Paul. The one that we're using the attorney for the gaming commission, defend the gaming commission, through the gaming commission, is that comes out of Mohegan Sun, and that's a pass-through to the city. And then also,
So what's the pass-through So do
Pass-through means
we
they
get
pay,
money
they give
from
us a bill,
Mohegan?
we give it to them, and we pass it on. So it's just a pass-through. They pay for the amount of money, and
Right.
if it gets passed on to the attorney. So there's no cost to the city there. Then you have the, again, like the tax title, it's off the top, and then you have the attorneys for negotiating for the labor contracts, and those come out of the mayor's office, and labor negotiator, and that's about all the other attorneys. Now, if there's, spot attorneys that are hired for whatever reason, they come out of that individual department, but it's minimal amount of money for them.
How much is the tax title, lawyers' fees generally?
How much, pardon me?
Yeah.
Say that, I didn't get
How
what-
much are the tax title lawyer fees generally?
Well, it's what they charge. It's the hourly rate that they charge. They just pass it on. Every time we close a case, it's different for every case, depends on how long a case goes. I have to say we're one of the most active in the land court in the state because of the fact that the city, turns over their tax title to lien before the end of that fiscal year, which cities and towns mostly do it 1 or 2 years later. So we have, right then and there, we have our lien on there. 6 months later, we put in for foreclosure, and after we put in for foreclosure, and then it's all in the hands of the attorney. So as much as it goes on, so somebody could last 3 or 4 years on that, and depending on how much work's done on it, and that's what it would be. So there's not a typical case that I could say the attorney fees would be, but it goes per case by the amount of time that the attorney has to spend on it.
And
it's been very successful.
do we actively look at those bills? Because of it coming off the top, I could see it being easier to not criticize those bills, in terms of the amount of hours worked and the amount of money that's paid out, where if we had an appropriation, there might be a little bit more kind of a critical eye looking at.
Well, no, there is actually a critical eye. I sign those invoices every month during the year. And there is a critical eye. They give us a detailed report of exactly what time they spent on each and every case. As I said, it's been very successful for the city of Revere. If you look at the amount of tax title that we collect in a year, I think so far this year I collected $2.5 million. The amount, if you look at our balance sheet compared to from year to year that we have outstanding in delinquent taxes, and you look at other cities and towns, I have seen cities and towns with receivables out there for $15 million, when the city of Revere usually has a rolling amount about $2.6, $2.7 million. So we're that much lower. And what happens is that we're on such a fast track because of the way we wrote our computer programs and so on and so forth, that before if somebody is in tax title, they're going to they're going to be filed in a court within 7.5 months of the time when they put on lien. And the law allows for 6. So that's how close we are to the schedule. And because of the law firm we're using, that's the reason why, one of the reasons why it's done.
So we collect about $2.5 million in tax title.
That's correct.
So out of that, is it like generally 10%, 20%?
No, it's not a percentage. I can't peg it that way. I wish I could. I really can't give you an accurate figure on what it is on tax title alone because, I could total up the bills and see how much we give them in a year, but at the same time, it's what the amount of time, it depends on each case on the amount of time that he spends in the case. Okay? But that's the closest I can give you. And I do want to say something else before you get Paul up and Marie up. I do remember what I was trying to remember. It's the contract manager at risk. That's what we're looking for, contract manager at risk. I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with it, but I couldn't remember it, and Marie just reminded me. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Paul, for sticking around.
No other questions?
Appreciate it. I don't think we have any other questions. Thank you. Last but not least, thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being so patient.
Okay. I do have an increase in my postage because for some postage. Okay. The postmaster will not tell you what his increases are going to be over the year, so I can't go by that. From what I understood last year, it would have been 1 cent, and it turned out to be a lot more than that. There's been a huge increase in mail that goes out, mostly because of the health department being aggressive with tickets and different things like that. So the budget ran short this year. I asked for a $20,000 increase, which I'm definitely going to need, and hopefully things will settle down a bit, and that'll do for next year.
So your postage will be around a little over $100,000 this year?
This year, yes.
Yeah, okay. Any, Councilor Janino?
Thank you. You have an incredibly lean budget, and I just want to thank you for sticking around this late with us, and really thank you for your time, because it took a lot, because I'm sure you anticipated that we wouldn't have many questions on such a lean budget. But I really want to thank you, and I want to apologize to Carolyn in the retirement department who left, because she sat here for a long time too, waiting, and just to let people know that she was here and she stuck it out. So thank you all for waiting this long. I really appreciate it. And Mr. Anzoni for answering all of our questions. Thank you.
Any other councilors? Thank you again for sticking around. I appreciate it. Maybe we can get some more money from the health department for all their postage costs. With that, we will close our first meeting of the fiscal year 16 budget, and we will reconvene on Thursday, June 18th at 6 p.m. Thank you.